And good morning. It is a Monday edition of GCR. I am Glenn. He is Griffin. God, there could not have been more going on this weekend, man. It was like dizzy, everything that was happening. I was trying to watch on top of the games that I was doing, neither of which went particularly well. Yikes. It's a tough weekend for me. But for everybody else, fairly pleasant. Towson basketball didn't need it, but got another win anyway. Why not? Senior Day, Autism Speaks Day. I know there was another great crowd out there. Maryland lacrosse, what a win. I mean, a really great game. I didn't get to watch the first half because I was doing the Loyola game, but when the Loyola game ended, I flipped that on, and it was intense. Logan McNaney was awesome. Another great crowd, like 10,000 plus people in Atlanta for that game. Dang. Although, as some people point out, like the shame when you're playing in a big football stadium is that like it creates images where it doesn't look, but like you could see there were a boat.
The sections that had people in it.
Oh yeah, there were a boat. I watched some of Maryland baseball Saturday when they came from behind in the ninth inning to beat Wake Forest. It was really good. Now they ended up splitting the two games. They lost yesterday, kind of got.
They're calling them the cardiac Terps, I think.
Well, yeah, that's what they've been saying that for some time. It's been a thing related to Maryland baseball. They won 3 out of 4, which is good because they had been off to the first two games were against Princeton, and then they split 2 games against Wake Forest, which ain't bad given how good Wake Forest is.
Yeah.
What else did I poke in on over the course of the weekend? God, I poked in on Navy basketball yesterday for a while. Just took in as much as I could over the course of the weekend.
This is March, you know?
Yeah, a lot going on, man. A lot going on. And Maryland finally won a basketball game at Penn State, something they never, ever do. Never. Never. A lot happening. I guess I just realized it's all college sports. I didn't watch any Orioles at all.
They're playing exhibitions.
I know they're playing today on TV. I won't. Big news.
Felix Bautista is supposed to pitch, though, today.
What?
Yeah.
Is that for real?
Yeah.
Like in the game?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
That would be
the latest. That was what Brandon Hyde was at least alluding to.
They should have him pitch first then. Right. With all due respect to Charlie Morton. Let Felix Bautista go out there so we know when. Because I'm not going to sit through to wait to figure out when.
No, he said 9th inning only for Felix Bautista.
Is that what he said?
No, that's not what he said. I don't know when he's going to be out there, but yeah.
All right. Anyway, yeah, lot happening. A lot to do on the program today. Coming up in just a few minutes, the great Zack Britton's going to join us. Of course, Orioles legend, and was back with the team. Now that his brother's on the big league staff, Zack was back working for a few days, helping out as a spring training instructor. So we're going to talk to him about what he saw down there, what he's up to. We're doing a Monday visit with Patrick Stevens because, as Griffin just pointed out, this is March, and so he's got a lot going on, but we'll catch up with Patrick today instead of tomorrow. Someone who had an incredible combine, Dont'e Thornton, Mount St. Joe's own, Baltimore native, Tennessee wide receiver. Boy, did he turn some heads, posting, I think it was a 4.3 40 over the course of the weekend. Going to go a long way to making some money, so we will catch up with Dont'e Thornton a little bit later on in the program, and it's a Monday, so Jeremy Conn will join us as well. All of that coming up on the program today. Speaking of spring training, Stan the Fan Charles and Luke Jackson are getting ready to head down to spring training. They will be there later on this week and will be providing coverage every day. PressBoxOnline.com, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. It is all brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel, as well as HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Easy Pass, and the Costas Inn. Looking forward to all the coverage that Stan the Fan Charles and Luke Jackson will be providing from down in Sarasota, starting a little bit later on this week. All right, I'm trying to think if there's anything that I need to... Oh, I guess the news this morning is the one that we sort of dial in on. The news this morning being that I can't believe it's just over. The Orioles and the Nationals have ended the Masson dispute. And we don't know... I mean, maybe we do know some of the details. The release they put out didn't involve any details whatsoever, other than this will be the final year that the Nationals will be on Masson. And then the Nationals will be granted the ability to go seek out their own television rights or perhaps do what other teams do and take them internal to Major League Baseball and make them available via streaming. It's so weird when something like this happens and you're just like, wait, really? Like, it's just over? This thing that has loomed over us for seemingly centuries, not actually, but it's felt that way, since basically the existence of the Nationals, but really more like the turn of the decade from 2009 to 2010, when the relationship started to sour. It's jarring to just wake up and be like, yeah, it's over. It's done. Well, but what? But what now? Nothing is what now? Nothing. That said, if this had happened 12 years ago, this conversation would have led to something like, well, hopefully that means that MASN is going to become a more focused, Baltimore-centric sports network. For a little while, again in the aughts, MASN kind of was. They were also the cable home for Ravens programming, preseason games. They did pregame, postgame shows. They did the Ravens anchor programming, like the Ravens Wired or whatever they called their weekly TV shows. They had daily coverage. Dan Kolko, who's involved with the Nationals now, I remember was the Ravens beat writer or beat reporter for MASN, and they had daily coverage on the website, and they were doing the daily shows. I know Stan used to be a part of that. That were more than just baseball. Like they would do some football on those shows, and they also aired the Anita and Jeremy show. I think maybe Scott and Jeremy might have still been. I don't know. When I started with Anita, we were on MASN. They were doing a lot more of the stuff. Now, they were also trying to do some DC stuff, and I think they ran John Riggins' radio show on TV as well. But they were trying to do some of that. And in a world, again, if you went back to that time and said, hey, the Nationals are no longer going to be involved, you might, as a Baltimore sports fan, have said, well, this is great. This will be a more Baltimore-centric network. But I think any of us that have watched have noticed there has been a steady decline of any actual programming or real content on MASN. And I think the reality would look more like this is the step towards there not being a MASN. And that was always going to be the case. And that's not unique to MASN. That's going to come for basically any cable network, particularly regional cable networks, in the coming years. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. It's clear that's the direction that we're going. It's going to move to streaming. It's going to move to apps. There might be a MASN app, or it might just be an Orioles app. And that's how you're going to watch the games. And this might be, from new ownership, that they were more inclined to just end this, even if it's a net economic loss, to say, let's get on with whatever we're going to do. As you can tell, they didn't up the number of, a lot of things that we asked for when David Rubenstein and his group took over, and we said, hey, what advice would we give David Rubenstein? A lot of it was related to MASN. Show more spring training games. Maybe fix the app. And it might very well be that, and I don't know this, but it might very well be that internally they've said, well, we're not going to invest. MASN's not a long-term option. We're not invested in MASN. And they haven't. We haven't seen, but they aired they were going to air 2 more spring training games this spring than they would have aired previously. And ironically, it feels like all those are also on national TV. Like today's is on ESPN.
Right.
I don't know. I haven't looked at the app since last baseball season ended.
But
they used to air more local. Like I think this year,
like college basketball.
I'm
like
trying to
that
think of
thing. Yeah.
They used to air some Loyola games from time to time, some UMBC games from time to time. I don't even know if they aired
before Towson had this monumental thing.
Yeah, the monumental thing.
They
did some stuff with Masson. I don't. There was nothing for me to flip over and look at the app after the end of baseball season.
I think it's a lot of World Series poker now. I think.
Okay, if you say so, I'll believe you. I just don't know. Maybe there's great programming and I'm just not aware of
it.
It doesn't seem like they've done anything to try to upgrade that. It seems like they're quietly telling you, we know where this is headed. And where this is headed is there is no Masson. Or Masson isn't a cable network. If they want to keep the name for some reason, they could. And they could just make that the app by which they stream the games. I don't know how that's going to work with Major League Baseball, and if they try to take more it might very well be that Major League Baseball tries to make this more centralized. Not football-like, but they want to say to all these teams that lost their Bally Sports providers or that ended up just taking them over the top themselves, they say to all of these teams, we're going to create an operations hub for all of these broadcasts to try to share as much cost as we can. And in doing so, you're just going to have the game streamed through the MLB app, but in the local market, they can pay for your team. I don't know.
Right.
There's probably a blueprint for this, and there's people that I would think that we maybe would have reached out to in the past. That I know at least one of them isn't available, but I'm going to think about who else might be available to talk about this. It will be interesting to see how this happens, but I don't think the answer is because they're going to embolden Masson as a Baltimore sports network. It seems far more likely that this is the move that you make to say we're ready to be done with Masson. We see where this is going. There's no real value in us operating a cable network anymore. What we're going to do instead is just air the games. That's what people want. And I'm not suggesting they don't want shoulder programming, but they would say we can continue to provide shoulder programming through an app. We can do pre- and post-game shows. We can do streaming shows. Masson does do some of that. We can do all that type of stuff. We don't need it to be on a cable network. And they can probably avoid union costs by getting it off of a cable network. So that's my gut as to what happens from here. I assume Nationals fans are very happy today because they've always thought they were sort of like the ugly stepchild in this. They've also, I think, convinced themselves that they've lost out on a boatload of revenue that could have gone to be spent on baseball players because, as you know, baseball owners always directly spend revenue on the baseball players.
Yeah.
100% of the time.
They know that from watching us, obviously.
It's the way it works. Any revenue that comes, it goes right to spending on baseball players and makes your team better. That's been abundantly clear. But very, very fun having Tony Clark over the weekend openly talking about how there's going to be a work stoppage after the 2025 or going into what it has to be 2026. Super fun. But he's probably right. I mean, for what it's worth, I don't think he's just making it up. Big news. I mean, it really is. It doesn't mean anything today. Today it changes nothing. This season it changes nothing. And I don't even know that next season is when Masson goes away. But I think that that's the quiet part. The quiet part of this is the step towards when there won't be a Masson or a network, but instead you'll just be watching the games. That's my gut as to what this news means today. Then again, if you missed it, the Orioles and Nationals have come to a final resolution of the Masson dispute, and they are moving forward. And this will be the final year for the Nationals to be on Masson, and then they will be able to seek their own rights after this season. Let's talk a little more Orioles this morning. Our next guest, one of our favorites, a legend here in Baltimore. And he was down in Sarasota for a few days earlier in spring, hanging out and spending time with the birds. And, of course, his brother, who's a part of the big league staff now. He is the great Zack Britton, and he is back with us this morning here on GCR. Zack, it's Glenn. It's always great to catch up with you, man. Thank you so much for taking the time for us.
Yeah, it's good to hear from you, and good to be back on the show.
It's great to chat with you, dude. You know how many times, by the way, when we talk about like the fact that pitchers don't hit, I reference the home run that you hit. It comes up constantly as like one of my favorite low-key moments in the history of the Orioles. Like, where was your home run on the list of like your own? I know you accomplished incredible things, but you hit a home run in the big leagues. Like, where is that on your list?
I mean, personally,
Yeah.
it's like number one.
Is it really?
On like a personal accomplishment because, you know, I always wanted to be a hitter, and there's that part of you that, like, you know, I was really good in high school, had like some teams interested in me out of the draft hitting, but you're left-handed, you know, you throw hard, like your path's probably pitching. And so all through the minors, you kind of talk smack with the hitters, like, I can do this. Like, this isn't that hard. You guys are overcomplicating this thing, right? Whatever. And yeah, so you get your opportunity to shine.
And then
after not hitting for like 5 years,
they can't talk to you after that, right? Like, you've got I told you it's not that hard.
Exactly. So it was like, I think for like a personal thing, I mean, the pitching stuff is always great, and then the team stuff where you get to the playoffs,
right,
and you win divisions, and you know those individual accomplishments, but just a little bit for hey, that's not something you're supposed to do, and just that little, you know, you have that little infighting sometimes in the clubhouse, like jokingly about, you know, who has the harder job, pitchers or hitters, and it's like a never-ending feud. And so it was nice to like kind of like have that over them for a second.
Dude, it comes up constantly when we talk about pitchers hitting. It's a moment I'll never forget. Now, this is the important question. Did it bother you when they got rid of pitchers hitting, or were you good with it?
You know, like I understood it. I think guys are getting paid too much money now that teams just don't want to take the risk of, you know, the majority of pitchers, you know, you're not training to swing a bat as hard as you can. You know, I mean, pitching and hitting aren't completely dissimilar with how you rotate, but it's enough to where, you know, if I'm spending all this money on a pitcher, why would I even want him to risk having to hit and run the bases when we're not asking him to train for that, you know? So I think it makes sense.
I agree with that. All right, so this is the other question that I was thinking about. Over the years, I've never asked you this. Did the dynamic ever change between you and your brother? Like, was there all of your accomplishments, everything that you did, was there ever a moment where he didn't see you and it didn't just go right back to him being the older brother and trying to pick on you? Like, did that ever change at any point in your life?
I don't think it ever changed to where, you know, you understood that he was my older brother, or where I understood. I think it's more of like a respect thing. I think we got over the point where, like, you know, we're brothers and like we talk smack to each other and whatever, but I think there was always that comfort level knowing that he was my older brother, so I could, at the end of the day, like seek advice from him. He always like saw me as his younger brother and, you know, would protect me or, you know, give me good information or criticism, you know, or instruction when I needed it. I don't think he ever saw me any different than that, which was nice. And that's why we have such a good relationship, because no matter, you know, where I was in baseball, it never like trumped the fact that he was my older brother. Right. So I was never like above him.
But did it ever like end like when he would see you that he, like maybe he wouldn't try to punch you in the nuts or something? You know what I mean? Like this is I've got two sons now, Zach. I didn't have a brother growing up.
Well, I got bigger than him in high school, so I think like
so that
kind of stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the physical like altercation stopped when I got bigger than him. But he's always been like, he's been great with like, I guess like he can use his words. You know, I'm trying to think of like what is that, but he's always been like that guy that always is like he's witty
Okay.
You know, he's got a good comeback for everything. So he's always been able to dominate in that area.
Okay, I can respect that. Actually, I'm jealous of that, right?
Like,
As someone who does
he can
this for a
roast me
living,
with his words.
that's
you know?
perfect. That is perfect. What is it? What
And
is
I'm
it
just
like?
yeah,
I
I'll
know
beat you
it. I know it's just a couple of days, right? Like I know it's not, but like, how cool is it for you to be down there doing it with him? You know, putting on the same uniform, being around the guys. Like, how truly unique and special are those moments when you get to have them?
I mean, they're pretty cool. I haven't been back in uniform since I stopped playing with the Yankees, and you know, I kind of been turning down some stuff and wasn't sure if I was ready to kind of get back in. I think there's a little bit of like that awkwardness of, hey, I'm not playing anymore. You know, what does this look like? You know, what do I even do? You know, you're so used to going to the field and having like your job and like, you know, this is what I need to do to be ready. And it's such a different experience because I'm not a coach, right? You know, I'm there to kind of assist in any way they want me to assist. So you kind of feel like an outsider for a second. And then, you know, once I started talking to the players, because I'd played against a few of them. And then I played with, you know, Cedric, so I know him. You know, I know Mountcastle. Like, there's a few guys, but it's such a younger group now that I mostly just played against them. But they were great. You know, they came up to me right away. We started talking, and you know, and then you feel like you're back in, you know, in the group, and you know, I felt pretty comfortable walking around there. You know, after meeting Elias and the coaches and Hyde, everybody, you know, it was great.
That's cool, man. Zack Britton is with us on GCR. Zach, do you go down there like with, I have a plan, I want to impart certain things, I want to do, or do you just go down there to like be a sounding board of sorts? Like, hey, if somebody wants to talk to me, I'm happy to talk to them, but I've got no, you know, no particular motivation, just here to sort of be here as a resource.
Yeah, I didn't have any motivations, you know, when, like after my brother got the major league job, I had told, I had always thought about the Orioles were going to be where I would ultimately go back if I did anything in baseball, whether that be like in a front office role or an advisor role. I think for me, being drafted by Baltimore and coming up through the system, spending majority of my career there, it always felt just a little bit more like, hey, that's where I'm going to go back when it's all said and done.
We love that. We love that.
And
yeah,
so I was kind of waiting for like, the opportunity.
Dude, we needed you to say that.
You
I
know?
hope you understand like how badly.
Well, the Yankees like had really put it out there that, hey, like once a Yankee, always a Yankee, you know, we'd love to have you back. And I spoke with them, and I think they knew, like, hey, like, I'm probably going to want, like, I think personally, I want to do stuff with Baltimore more so. And they respected that. And so I was just kind of waiting for the opportunity for, you know, Elias and Hyde to kind of, like put the invite out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they were unsure if I was ready to be done playing, if I was actually done. Mm-hmm. And I understand that, because you don't want to invite a guy back and like walk him through how you run your operation, and then I go play with somebody else, right?
Hey, thanks for all the information. So I'm a Tiger now.
Exactly. Right. So I think there's some hesitation on it, but once I told them, hey, I'm done. Like I'm not pulling a Tom Brady. I'm done. I've made that choice, and like I'm ready to go back. So for me, going down there was, hey, introduce myself to Hyde, and then all the coaches that, you know, my brother has spoken about. You know, reintroduce myself to them. I know Robinson Trinos, playing against him, and then with the Yankees, playing with him. So meet Robbie, and then I hadn't met Mike Elias, and I wanted to meet him. And I did. I got the chance to talk to him for a while. And so just really trying to get familiar with the organization again. There's a lot of new faces, a lot of old faces. And then when it came to players, just being like, hey, what do you need me to do?
Yeah.
I feel like since I got done playing, I can relate to every one of these guys, especially with the evolution of, you know, analytics, and then trying to implement that on the field and be successful out on the field. So yeah, I was just there. I was just kind of present for the players, and, you know, some hitters talked to me about, hey, what were you thinking, like with the Yankees? Like, what was my scouting report? You know, things like that.
That's interesting.
And then,
that's cool.
You know, like some of the younger pitchers, just trying to make the process simpler for them. I think when you're young, I was young, you don't realize that the game is still very simple, and there's really like a few things that you need to do really well and consistent to have like a really good major league career. And sometimes we overcomplicate it. So I think that's where I came in. It was more so like, hey, you know, who are you? how can we keep this simple, and how can we be consistent? Where can I help you? Basically, that was it.
I loved. There's a couple things that you said in there that I just wanted to see if I could follow up on. One, I'm sure that you had talked to your brother about the culture, and he got to know all of these guys coming up through the system. But even in a short amount of time, could you get a feel for the uniqueness, maybe the bond, and how special it is to have so many of these guys that came up together and all reached this point together and are as close, and just maybe how truly, I keep using the word unique, that is in baseball to have a scenario like that.
Yeah, it is unique. I know the culture was great. My brother always talked about it, but you don't really know till you get back in there. They have a great culture from high, Elias. I think they've done a great job. New ownership. I guess like the energy there is really great. I think everyone's excited to see how new ownership kind of like really enhances, the organization. They got a ton of talent. So I think it's going to be exciting. It seemed like everyone was excited, but yeah, having a lot of young players that came up together is always good. Always the problem is when it's time to pay these guys, can we keep them around and maintain that culture?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not really my question to answer,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it's, like that's the thing, right? We had guys, we had the Machados, myself,
Yep.
like we
Adam,
had guys that came up together, and then we just knew at one point, like we were told, like, we aren't going to sign you, right? Like you will be free agents or we will trade you. And that kind of stunk, right? When that happened, because the culture like erodes, because now everyone's like, where am I going to be?
Man,
I'm not going to be here. So where am I going to be? Right?
Is there
And
a
so
time
you
frame?
get a little selfish, I guess, in that
does that
dynamic.
come like years in advance of the date? Like,
No,
boy,
it's quick.
okay.
It's like the year like the year of
Okay.
them wanting to trade you, or like
Okay.
the year before.
Okay.
Like, so, but I think here with new ownership, they're going to hold on to a lot more of the young superstars. And I think that's going to create the culture. You create the culture by the guys that you keep and the guys that you pay and the guys that you maintain long-term. Those guys are the culture, right? So you choose wisely.
That's a really fascinating way of saying it, man. That really is a fascinating way of saying it, right? Like that.
Because you would love to say, like, I'm going to keep every single guy,
right?
But that's just not reality. So you pick the right guy
and kind of plant the
pay
flag
him
and say,
correct.
everything centers around this guy.
Yeah, if I pay this guy and I keep him, like his personality, like what kind of culture is he going to bring to our organization? Because it's going to start with him, and then you figure out, hey, what culture do we want? These are the guys that we keep, and that's who we build around.
Can you mentioned something about Robinson Chirinos, and I have talked. It's funny because when everything started to turn for this organization, I remember having a chat with Brandon about it one time, and I just said, is there anyone that we maybe don't understand was as critical to how this turned? And he, like, when I ask a question like that, I'm so used to everybody you just name everybody. You're like, that's what you get back because you don't want to offend. It was the exact Brandon Hyde, before I could finish the question, said Robinson Chirinos. And I was like, wow, okay. Can you tell me more? And he just said he changed the culture here. He was the one that knew how to win and said we have the right to win and made these guys believe that they could win. From your experiences with him, can you kind of put into words what he means as someone who is a winner, despite the fact that maybe we don't think of him as like, a Hall of Fame caliber baseball player?
Well, the thing with Robbie is that he knows what winning looks like. He won a World Series, played with the Astros for a really long time, Rangers, but the Astros specifically, he's seen that, like, you go from an underperforming organization to a World Series caliber organization. He's seen it, right? He knows what it takes. But playing with Robbie in New York for a short time, he's just a really good baseball guy, understands kind of how to communicate with the younger player, where the game benefits from analytics and maybe where there's a hindrance of it. And so I think he's great. He's great for the modern baseball. But even with like the pitcher catcher dynamic, he was always trying to create like an edge for his pitcher. So he's really smart in a lot of like the little things, the little details that maybe the outside fan wouldn't see. And so I'm interested to see how he does. And this is first year coaching and things like that.
I think it seems like it would be a perfect fit. I mean, and the respect they have for him, it seems like it would be incredible. Is there someone that you didn't know or you hadn't been around that, like, again, I know it was a short amount of time, but that really impressed you, either just from watching from afar or time that you spent talking to them? Anyone who's like an interaction that you came away from like, wow, that boy, I didn't know this about this person. I'm really impressed by them.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, I'm transitioning you into my car.
You're good, man. I know we got to let you go in a minute.
No, you know how this works.
Yeah.
But I think, like, beyond like the offense, which I was very well aware of, I think, Povich, I liked him.
Okay.
Let me see. I had like Bautista. I saw Bautista's like first couple bullpens. Obviously, everyone knows.
Yeah, how imposing.
About him.
God, man, he's just boy. Getting that guy back this season will make such a difference for this team. It's hard to. And look, I mean, we in Baltimore, we know obviously the value of having a great closer, right? Because hello, present company, but. There's just something.
I guess to answer your question, sorry, I was like losing you transitioning. I didn't mean to
You're good,
be
dude.
short. But Povich, so Povich, I was actually really interested. He was one of the first pitchers meetings that I sat in on, and his stuff is great, and he's left-handed starter. I mean, think about all the great left-handed hitters that he's going to face, and a guy like that would be super valuable. And so I was pretty impressed with him. I had a chance to talk with him. I hadn't seen him very much. And I think he's got a chance to do some really good things. He's got a lot of tools. He's got, he's definitely got like the command tool of an elite starter. And that's just so hard to find. And so it's just about putting everything together, I think, for him. And I'm excited to see what he will do.
Can I?
With
before I let you go, Zach, I wonder what your thoughts would be about this, because it came up watching the Dodgers a year ago, and I don't want to – like, Yamamoto is probably pretty close to an ace, but I don't know that we would think of him as, like, the traditional ace type. Do you need an ace to win a World Series, or can you do it with have bulk pitching, make sure 3 to 4 of the starters are guys that you can count on in the postseason, but just have a ton of arms – and have a bunch of different pathways for how to go about doing it?
I think the one thing I learned playing for so long is that there's no right or wrong way to win a World Series. The one thing that you have to do is be able to score runs multiple ways. You can't slug, you can't just hit home runs and things. You got to be pretty dynamic. And so from a pitching standpoint, you would like to have 1 or 2 guys in that rotation that you are workhorses. And then have like that bullpen that's elite too. But yeah, that's a tough question. Your pitching staff is going to definitely determine whether or not you win the World Series. So I think you got to identify, are we going to just invest 5 really good starters, or are we going to invest an unbelievable bullpen with 1 or 2 top of the rotation guys and go from there? I think Grayson could be that guy. He's just so young that you don't want to put that expectation on him or force him to have to be that guy before he's ready. Charlie Morton's great. He's going to teach these guys a lot. But yeah, I think there's I think that's a question, right? Can you reinforce that? You have a ton of prospects. Can you go out and get a number 1 type guy, to help you ultimately get to the World Series? But I don't think it's a have to. I think it's a luxury to have it.
I get that. I think that there's a lot of people that are starting to move in that direction, that you don't have to. Yes, you'd love to. No one would be opposed to your point to finding that guy, whether it's Grayson becoming that guy or making that move. But I don't know if it's a have to.
Corbin Burns, Corbin Burns is about as good as it gets in the game. And you didn't win a World Series with him, right? Because it's just not one guy. A lot of things have to go right, but I think that's a perfect example. Would you love to have a Corbin Burns or a Max Fried or a Garrett Cole or Max Scherzer's or Verlanders? For sure. No one's going to say no. But I think if you identify who you are And like this is where we struggle, and we reinforce that. And it doesn't have to be the best guy or, a top 5 starter in the game to get it done.
I would be remiss, man, if I didn't ask you something about Brian Mattis, because like, as much as I love talking with you and getting to know you, it blew my mind. Brian, after like his time in Baltimore, he would still reach out to me, just like randomly. Would reach out, was on Instagram and would send me messages on there, just like, hey man, checking in. And I don't know that people realize truly what a good guy Brian Mattis really was. And I know how much it hit you guys. What would you want people to know about your friend and your former teammate?
Oh, man, I mean, there's a lot. We were so close forever, really. And even when we weren't playing together, we stayed in touch a lot. That's a tough question. I just think the best thing is that he was a good guy. He was a good friend. He was a really good friend to me. He loved Casey Cares. He loved, the community there in Baltimore. He loved those kids. And I just think for me, I've stayed in touch with his family, for a while too. And I just think for them, I always just said that he's just such a good friend. I mean, there's so many stories. He really took me under his wing like a big brother. We were being left-handed. We were throwing partners, but he's a little bit older, barely. But he treated me like a younger brother all the way, forever. And he always looked out for me and was always supportive of me. So he was just a good friend, and I miss him. I just miss, there's so many memories. When I went back to Sarasota, it was tough for a second because I remember being in there with him. He's just a good guy. And, like, he struggled, right? Like, he struggled, like, post-playing. And that's okay. Like, people struggle, and I think, like, it's not, like, all, it's not a fairy tale, right? Like, there's real people that struggle, and he did, but it doesn't change the fact that he was a good person. And, sometimes you wish that you could have done more for people like that, but he was a good guy, and he struggled, and it's just like a really sad ending to what should have been a lot more for him. And, he had a lot of good things in his future, and it was just maybe hard for him to see that. And being a really good friend with him, like, it was really tough to see, and just to kind of just see how it all unfolded. So, we're going to miss him. I mean, it's been tough. But he was a good guy. He loved the city. He loved those kids.
He really did, man.
And that's what people should remember about him. But, you can't forget the fact that, like, people do struggle. And I think for me, it made me realize that maybe, like, those people that I lost contact with over time from playing, like, some of those guys struggle. And sometimes they just need somebody to reach out to them and be like, hey, man, like, there's more to it than just playing baseball, right? Like, if you have family, you have kids, like, there's so many more reasons to be positive about life and things like that. So, I just wish it didn't come at the price of losing him.
Zach, I know that's hard. Thank you for that, and I appreciate you doing that and taking that time, man. And we are certainly thinking about you and everybody that loved Brian, and I'm glad you said that because he really was a special person, and thank you for that.
Yeah, he was.
Zach, it's always good to do this, man. Hopefully we'll be seeing more now that you've, like, committed, like, you're in the Oriole DNA. Like, I hope that means there will be more appearances here in Baltimore, Sarasota, wherever that is.
I will.
I hope that's the case, dude.
I'll be up there a few more times. I think I already have a couple of trips planned. I think we'll probably announce those as I get going. I think I'm going to do a couple events.
That's awesome.
So it should be fun.
We love the sounds of that, dude. Zach, thank you for taking the time for us this morning, man. Let's talk again real soon. Really appreciate you, bro.
Yep, sounds good, man.
Zack Britton, Orioles legend, with us here on GCR. And I know that's not easy to do, and I really appreciate him flushing all of that out. I do. I mean, whenever we have Zach on, I just realize we could talk for an hour. Like, that was just like a casual 25-minute conversation. And I'm telling you, I had 3 other things on the list. I never got the ABS. I wanted to get. I'm like, I could just keep talking to Zack for forever, man. He's one of my favorites that we've ever had a relationship with over the years. So appreciate him taking the time for us this morning. All right, we'll get to our Oscars breakdown.
Ooh.
Starting to think maybe I should watch Anora. Starting to think.
I mean, yeah, that's what everyone apparently.
It's
Wicked got robbed. Every single category.
Are you a big Wicked person?
I mean, I thought Wicked was pretty good. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of what else stuck out. I don't know.
The only two I
didn't see Nora, so
I saw Complete Unknown and I saw Real Pain. That's it. That's a list. And Real Pain wasn't even nominated for Best Picture, right? It was just.
No, I don't think it was. No.
It was just. I didn't watch any of the Oscars, by the way. Zero.
Dune 2 won a good bit of stuff. Twisters wasn't nominated for anything. I was a little
unbelievable.
They didn't unbelievable. They should have at least got a nomination for visual effects, sound design, that kind of thing.
I don't know if we need to see about that.
This is Dune 1, I guess.
This is the first year. Last year I didn't watch the Oscars live, but then people started going on about the I'm Just Ken performance, and I watched it on Twitter, and then I decided I would watch the rest of the Oscars live after that.
See, this is what I don't get is like
nothing from the Oscars even registered on my social last night to get me to flip over. I did watch The White Lotus last night, but I did not watch the Oscars. I couldn't tell you anything that occurred other than I know who the winners were because the winners, Kieran Culkin won.
Right. They
Adrian Brody.
Yeah, Adrian Brody won The Brutalist.
Not Demi Moore. That was surprising because Mikey Madison.
Yeah,
won
I was a little.
For
I was very. Because I guess Anora must be really, really good.
Apparently, Anora's incredible. Like I don't know.
So was Amelia Perez that won a lot of the music categories.
And, Zoe Saldana won. Right?
Yeah. I assume she won something.
Yeah, she won Best Supporting Actress, didn't she?
No, did she?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. All
right. I mean, again, I'm saying this is a guy who didn't watch. Yeah, she won Best Supporting Actress.
Okay, all right, good for her.
Good for her.
Yeah. Well, that's what. So anyway, they perform Defying Gravity. Cynthia Erivo and.
Oh, you know what?
Ariana
That
Grande.
did show up in my social.
That's mostly Cynthia Erivo.
That's the only thing from the Oscars that showed up in my.
And so Barbie doesn't win anything the year prior, but they're still performing all the Barbie songs.
Right.
So that's why I don't understand how the Academy Awards. Obviously, this is not my domain, but that's why I don't understand how it works. If
I think
everyone's favorite
only
stuff
certain
is
movies
being
have
performed.
songs, so it's a whole.
Yeah, but then why doesn't their songs win? And why does it?
That you're asking the wrong guy. I'm out. All right, when we come back in, Patrick Stevens will join us.
I know you're the wrong guy.
You just mean in general? Is that what you're saying? We'll talk some Terps, some college hoops and lacrosse with Patrick next. This is Glenn Clark Radio.
You're going to love February at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Sweeten your Valentine's Day with a chocolate bar February 13th and 14th. Pamper yourself and your partner with Valentine's Day spa discounts February 10th through 21st. Celebrate the Year of the Snake and win a Lunar New Year luxury brand collection February 28th. Plus more ways to play, dine, and win all month. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. Learn more at DriveEasyMD.com.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at CostasInn.com.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in Maryland. But don't worry, protection is within arm's reach. Protect your health with this year's COVID-19 and flu shots. It's safe and convenient to get them both at the same time. Flex your protection. For more information, visit health.maryland.gov/vaccines.
This message paid for by the Maryland Department of Health.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Monday edition of the program. Coming up a little bit later on, we are going to meet Dont'e Thornton, Mount St. Joe alum, Tennessee wide receiver. He had a huge weekend out in Indianapolis at the Combine, posting a 4.340. I hear that's fast. That's just what I hear. I don't know everything there is to know, but I hear that's what you're looking to do. Into the postseason in high school hoops, countysports.zone has you covered. All the brackets, the schedules, everything you need to know. countysports.zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Normally on Tuesdays, but we're into March, mixing it up this week. Joining us here on a Monday, he is our friend. You follow him on Blue Sky at Discourse, D1S Course. Washington Post, Blue Ribbon, USA Lacrosse Magazine. Mr. Patrick Stevens back with us here on GCR. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm well, Glenn. How was your weekend?
It was well. I appreciate you provided me a little research for Loyola Colgate on Saturday, but it wasn't a pleasant game. It was not a pleasant broadcast. Unfortunately.
I mean, honestly, though, how many games do you get to see where there's 70 clearing opportunities?
Yeah, well, by the way,
a lot of them were bungled.
Yes,
obviously,
correct. Colgate's ride as advertised, and it is a crazy story. That's the one thing that come out of it is wow. And I'm not trying to. Loyola's got issues. It feels like the Colgate thing and what they did for 3 games and beating Harvard and beating Villanova, that they might really have something there.
Yeah. I mean, that's a team that, and they still haven't played a home game yet. Right. They had 2 home games that got moved because of basically the turf up in Hamilton was frozen. It's easy to move snow off a turf, but when all that stuff gets frozen, that becomes a really, really hard thing to solve. So they just went to Albany and won. They went to Villanova and won when those were supposed to be teams coming to them. And they are, they're playing really well. They started out with a couple losses, but I know from talking to Matt Carwick last week, he felt pretty good about how they had played against Penn State and Virginia out of the chute, and certainly playing really well right now. I mean, I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how they fare against a team like Army when that game comes around.
Let's just cover lacrosse since we brought it up, and obviously there was a huge game on Saturday down in Atlanta, and I got to watch the entire second half, and it was wildly entertaining to me as advertised. And boy, having Logan McNaney certainly makes a difference as Maryland was able to get that big win over Notre Dame on Saturday.
Yeah, that's the difference right there. And by the way, one of the things I wrote about for LaxMag for this week was okay, so Notre Dame loses for the first time in 370 days. No reason to overreact to that.
Oh yeah, they're the number 2 team in the country, right? Yeah.
But if you're Maryland, you've now just picked off Syracuse, Princeton, and Notre Dame on successive Saturdays.
Yeah, not bad.
And so you have already done most of the heavy lifting that you needed to do simply to be in the tournament. Now you're kind of looking at this team even though it's still a bit of a, there isn't the kind of obvious star that Maryland has been known to have over the years, right? It isn't even you have a face-off guy like Luke Weirman or the shutdown guy like a Makar or a Zappatello. But that almost sounds like it makes John Tillman's team every bit as dangerous as some of the ones that he's had in the past. Maybe not the undefeated team, but certainly a bunch that's capable of playing really excellent team defense and manufacturing enough goals to make things work. So you look at them, they've got Delaware, they've got a sub-500 currently Virginia team, and then it's Big Ten play from there. So Maryland has set itself up really well, and increasingly likely that's a team that will be playing, well into May at this point.
And probably worth noting, obviously, a very good bounce back for Johns Hopkins, although it got hairy. It got hairy at the end.
It did. I was over at Homewood, and here's the thing about Hopkins, and I keep getting struck by this because, they have Russell Melendez goes down with an injury, or he was nicked up and he played a little bit. And they pull him in the first quarter, and they put in a guy named Charlie Eiler, a sophomore who had played a total of 2 shifts in his career, both at Denver earlier this season. And he goes out and gets a goal and 2 assists. And it's kind of this reminder that with Hopkins, like maybe they don't dominate a number 1 matchup when they're on offense, but they have crafted a roster and a scheme where they're a little bit better at the 4th and the 5th and the 6th options, no matter who they throw in there. And that adds up over the course of a game, over the course of a quarter. It adds up over the course of a season. And we were reminded again that Hopkins has enough options that they're going to cause problems for a lot of people. Now, I think Virginia has its issues too. I think defensively they were exposed in some ways. They played better than they did a week earlier when they got just thumped out at Ohio State 14-5. But that's a good win for Hopkins. And now they head up to Syracuse in another one of those bellwether rivalry games as they get closer and closer to delving into conference play. I believe they've got Syracuse and Navy left before the Big Ten schedule begins.
Patrick Stevens is with us here on GCR. Let's transition over to hoops, and I think that you would be the person that would explain this the best. It wasn't pretty, but it was never going to be pretty for Maryland at Penn State. Just winning that game, kind of all that mattered, given everything that they've been through over the years at Penn State. And I would add in, like, it was senior day, Penn State not a lot left to play for, Maryland needing to pick themselves up after one of the most deflating losses in modern memory. To me, that's a good win, even if it didn't look all that good at times.
Yeah, that's one that you look at, and then if you win by 1 or if you win by 30, it's basically the same, right? Like, I think, first off, that game last Wednesday against Michigan State, I'm not sure I've ever been in a building where all of the energy got sucked right out of it all at once. It was really a remarkable thing to experience, just as something different. And obviously you don't see a 55 or 60 footer at the buzzer every day.
Right.
So, they had to reload the musket, go up to Penn State, got the win, move on. Like no one is going to remember that game. That is the least important game that Maryland's going to play this March.
Yep.
Because they'll go to Michigan and there's value that can be had from winning that game. You have your senior day on Saturday, Julian Reese getting honored before the game against Northwestern. And then it's conference and NCAA tournament. So get the win, move along. I think that makes Maryland even more likely to find itself on the 5 line when all is said and done. I think we've been talking about maybe them as being a 6 plus or minus a line, and I feel like the last week probably knows them a little bit closer to a 5 plus or minus a line, probably a low 5 or a high 6 at this point for the Terps.
Is that kind of dependent on Wednesday and what happens at Michigan?
Yeah, I mean, that certainly would elevate the ceiling a little bit. I don't think losing at Michigan hurts them all that much. I mean, their metrics could get hurt if they somehow got run off the floor. But overall, I don't think that's a game that you're staring at saying, well, that's a game Maryland absolutely should win and they should be punished for losing it. I do think that Saturday might turn out to be the last game that they have that really could hurt them. It would kind of depend on who they would end up playing in that first Big Ten tournament game. Like if they get, let's say they're the 5 seed, then playing the 12 or the 13 in the first game would probably hurt. But if they're the 4 in a quarterfinal and they draw a 5 seed, well, that's probably not going to hurt them very much.
That's fair. Patrick, let's do a quick sort of, I guess, reality of all the teams that are going into the postseason. Obviously, the MEAC teams aren't there yet. We start with Towson, who took care of business, won the league outright. What will their reality be starting Sunday in the CAA tournament?
I mean, first off, that's a kind of dicey little draw that they have there. The two they'll play either Drexel, who they were fortunate to escape in overtime up in Philly, and fortunate to fend off at home.
Miraculously,
or they'll play Elon, the only team that they'll have lost to in the previous 2 months. So that is kind of a tricky game for them, and clearly too. Let's face it, like all of the ghosts of the previous CAA tournament start showing up here, and I think anybody else in that league knows that Towson hasn't been able to even make it to the final, let alone win a final. And so, yes, Towson's been really good over the last couple months. Went 16-2 in the league, first outright regular season title since the 1994 Big South. And if you want to have some fun, go look at the teams that were in the standings, that were in the Big South at that time. It's just a group that's been scattered all over the place by realignment. But you look at Towson, and they have more to prove, I think, in those 3 days in DC than they did over the previous 2 months. And coaches will tell you it's harder to win a regular season title than a tournament title, and there's more that goes into it. And they're right. But for this Towson team that was picked to win the league, that wins the league regular season, ultimately they're going to be defined by these 3 days, up to 3 days anyway, that they're playing down at the Mystics Arena in D.C.
There's no doubt about it. No question. And I know you were there on the. I don't know. We talk about things we've never seen before, like wins with no bench points. How many times have you seen 15-point deficit turned into 20-point advantage in the span of 12 minutes?
Yeah, I feel like I did see that with Morgan State and Longwood last.
Okay.
But your point is still pretty valid.
Yeah.
That it was as if I'm sitting there at halftime and I'm thinking, is William & Mary really going to shoot 65% from three?
Right.
And is Towson going to continue to not cash in on all these offensive rebounds? But that explains only some of the flip.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe it was 30-2 was the run that flipped that game around, and just it felt like William & Mary wasn't going to score the rest of the game. Watch in the middle of that run.
Wow.
So a really impressive work from Towson, and just kind of fitting for this team to kind of slog its way through for a little bit, figure it out, and come out looking pretty good when all was said and done with a 15-point victory in that game. Then finished off Hampton by 3 on Saturday to close out the perfect record at home during conference play.
Then let's go to the Patriot League. Loyola tomorrow, Navy Thursday. Their realities.
Well, I think when you look at Loyola, and having talked to Josh Leffler after Saturday's game down at Navy, which they lost, they're clearly better than they were last year. They're clearly better than they were when conference play began. They get a home game in the conference tournament, so that's a nice thing for them to have. They'll play Lehigh, which is a team that they swept back in January. It's a daunting task to try to go win 4 games in that tournament. They would have to go up to Bucknell, which I think is a better matchup for them than they had to deal with American. But overall, I think if you're Loyola, you feel like if you can win a home game and pick up a postseason win, that's another sign of progress, even if this was a team that had the deck stacked against them just by roster composition. And as for Navy, you know what? They're playing really well. They've won 5 of their last 6. The one loss was by 4 up at Colgate. They split with BU during the regular season. One thing that's worth mentioning with BU is that's a team with a pretty wild home road split. They won all their home games. They lost all but one of their road games. So this is a tough ask to go beat a team that hasn't lost at home since December 1st. But at the same time, you look at Navy and they've got pieces that are, Donovan Draper's playing a lot better right now. And I think a guy that's made a huge difference for him, and he certainly did on Saturday, is Mike Woods, who was this undersized 4/5 at 6'3", and he had 7 steals against Loyola, one of only 6 players in school history, and the first since 2002 to do that. So a really interesting Navy team heads into the postseason in decent shape, and they'll head to BU to start things up. I think that's a toss-up game up there.
It's obviously it was a struggle down the stretch, but UMBC is still in the America East tournament.
Yes, and UMBC is the one team that is done. They will be the number 1 seed in the conference tournament when that thing gets underway. I'm not quite sure if that's been clinched. The number 1 has been clinched by Bryant or Vermont, but UMBC will play the number 1 seed. They'll be the 8th seed in that tournament, and they had a scary moment the other night when Bryce Johnson got hurt and had to be taken off the floor after it came down basically on his neck And so, it's been the story for UMBC, besides that scary situation, certainly hoping that he's going to be okay, is they can score, they can't defend, and more often than not during America East play, the defense has caused more problems than the offense has done good things. So, they are going to have a tough task here. They gave up 81 and 92 to Bryant the 2 times they played them. If it was Vermont that they got, they got a split and have already won up there. So that maybe they would feel a little bit better about facing a team that they just saw when that conference tournament gets underway this weekend.
We will talk more next week about Mount St. Mary's and the MEAC teams as they will get ready for their tournaments. In the meantime, let's play our game. I think we'll just do 2 this week for time purposes, Patrick. I'll begin with 5 teams, and one of them is a wink, wink, nudge, nudge because it was all of 2/3 of an innings pitched, but I think you know. 5 teams, never an all-star. Jeremy Guthrie is first on the list.
Jeremy Guthrie was definitely a Royal, right?
Yep, of course.
And he was an Oriole.
Obviously.
Jeremy Guthrie was a Nat at the very end.
That's the one. 2/3 of an innings pitched in 1 appearance for the Washington Nationals.
That's a tough way to go out.
Yeah.
So, trying to remember where his other stops were, struggling on that. Was he in Tampa?
Not Tampa. The one, it's tricky. You remember he actually started somewhere else before he ended up in Baltimore as a Rule 5 pick.
Yeah, I'm not remembering that at all, quite frankly. So what do we say? What do we say that Jeremy Guthrie was an Angel?
Man, it was Cleveland to start, and it was Colorado between Baltimore and Kansas City. For Jeremy Guthrie, and then 5 teams. This man was an all-star once, and he is now currently with another team, but he hasn't pitched for them yet. 5 teams for Alex Cobb.
Alex Cobb, an Oriole. He was a Ray for sure.
Yep.
He was in San Francisco, right?
Absolutely.
Am I remembering Cobb as a Twin?
Not as a Twin, no.
Not as a Twin, okay. And some other stop for Alex Cobb. Since we're tight on time.
Oh, did we lose you? Oh, man, did we lose? Right as he was about to make his guess, I think we just lost Patrick. Oh, it's the story of our life. This the way it goes. Sorry, I don't know what happened. We'll let him finish up, and then we'll go from there. Pat, what was the last guess?
St. Louis.
Ironically, Cleveland again. That's where he was last season, and the Angels in 2021.
The Angels. Okay.
The schedule this week.
Are you joining me?
Yes,
for
I
Monday?
will be at Morgan tonight with you. Absolutely.
All right.
Yes.
So Dell State and Morgan State tonight. Georgetown, Villanova tomorrow. George Mason and LaSalle on Wednesday. American hosting a Patriot League quarterfinal on Thursday. CAA tournament gets underway, so we'll have that going on, plus Maryland Northwestern to throw in there as well on Saturday.
At Discourse, D1S Course is how you follow him on Blue Sky. He is also still on Twitter, but go to Blue Sky. Follow him there. Get the good stuff over there. Patrick, always appreciate you, man. We will talk to you again next week, and I'll see you tonight. Thank you so much.
Awesome, Glenn. Take care.
Patrick Stevens with us on a Monday this week here on GCR. Appreciate him taking the time for us. Into the 11 a.m. hour here on GCR. Don't forget, this afternoon, before they head down to Sarasota, Stan the Fan and Luke Jackson are getting together. They'll be chatting with you about everything that we've seen so far. By the way, Felix Bautista apparently going to be 3rd up today for the Orioles on the mound. So if you're watching today's game, can't help but wonder if maybe that was a ESPN special. 3rd up today on the mound for the Birds. Felix Bautista will be pitching, making his first appearance of the spring. And Stan and Luke will be talking about it later on this afternoon, facebook.com/PressBoxSports. This man had himself a weekend as he made the most of his trip out to Indianapolis for the Combine. He is Baltimore's own, the pride of Mount St. Joe, former Tennessee wide receiver, and getting ready for the NFL draft. We welcome to the program Dont'e Thornton, who's with us this morning here on GCR. Dont'e, it's Glenn. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you so much for taking some time for us this morning.
Man, I appreciate y'all for giving me the opportunity.
Absolutely, dude. Dont'e, I so much that I want to cover with you, but let's start with the micro and just what it meant to you to go out to Indy, to do the thing that you've watched guys do for years, to have the moment that you did post-A. Did you know that it was going to be 4.3? Did you know that was a number that you're going to be hitting? Is there a part of you that maybe it's disappointing that it wasn't lower than that?
Nah, it's crazy. Like my whole time training, I hadn't ran 4.3. I was running like 4.4s and stuff.
Wow.
And like, so my goal was to at least run 4.4, but anything under that, I'm okay with too. And like it's every time it got closer to like the day for us to run, I kept changing what I wanted to run. So like once the day of the 40 came up, in my mind I wanted to run like something over 4.3, something crazy like that. But I was using that to trick my mind so that I can run like 4.3. But when I ran, I wasn't expecting to like run exactly what I ran. I shocked myself.
What does that feel like? You know, like again, I know that this isn't winning the Super Bowl. This isn't even like hearing your name called, but it goes a long way to that. What is the feeling like when you see that time and you did that?
It felt like a weight dropped off my shoulders. I ain't gonna lie. It felt like a weight fell off my shoulders.
Man,
it was amazing.
That's cool, dude. I'm so happy for you, right? Like what with the entire experience though, like being out there, and again, I like how real it is that this is your life now, that you are doing the things that you dreamed of doing. Can you put into words what that week was like?
It was crazy. Like you said, it was a dream come true for me because the little kid that growing up played football. That's all you thought about was going to the NFL Combine.
Mm-hmm.
So like actually being able to go there and compete and things like that, it was crazy to me.
We got to do this though, like from a science standpoint. How can someone at your size possibly run a 4.3? Like, how is it even possible that you can do that at 6'5"? It feels like maybe, with all due respect, instead of having you play football, we should like have you defend our country because I think that you might actually be a superhero. Like, how is this possible?
That is crazy. I can't really tell you. Like I would say track probably helped me out a lot.
Yeah.
Like with being able to carry my speed, but I've been putting a lot of work in for the 40 for the past 2.5 months, and I feel like that played a big part in me running that 40 like that.
Do you remember like when you knew you were different, Dont'e? Like I want to go back a little ways. Do you remember a day where like, dude, I'm not like everybody else. Like I have, again, between size and speed, I have a skill set that other people just don't have. I'm not one of the guys. I am the guy. Do you remember a moment like that in your life?
I would say like this past football season.
Okay.
Like I would say for sure when I've had moments like that when I was younger, but where I feel like it really like came in effect a lot. Where I say this past football season for me.
Do you feel Dont'e Thornton is with us here on GCR? Do you feel like because you went through the injury 2 years ago, that maybe people like somehow they're not giving you the respect that you deserve? Given like this is insane. Like there aren't a lot of 6'5", 4'3" guys that exist in the world. Do you feel like that you are still maybe not getting the attention that, given your skill set, perhaps you deserve? And do you try to use that as like a little bit of a chip as you go through this process?
Oh yeah, I definitely say that, and I definitely use it as a chip on my shoulder because I know like that tells me there's always something I can get better at, and in my mind, I don't try to think of it as proving people wrong, but I feel like I put in a lot of work to be where I'm at and with the ability that I have. So I feel like at some point in time, people are going to really realize it.
I think they might be starting to realize it now. I think that might be the case.
Definitely.
Dont'e, let's go back a ways, right? You're a kid here. Tell me the path that brought you to Mount St. Joe and what that experience did for you in getting you ready to go play big-time college football.
It was crazy. So, like, growing up, I played for Hamilton Tigers, and Coach Hoser, he was the head coach at Mount St. Joe while I was in middle school.
We had the Hamilton Tigers. We did an event with Arthur Millette over at the Hamilton Sports Bar and Grill, and, like, the whole program came over to hang out, man. Like, that is a special program, the Hamilton Tigers, dude.
Yeah, so I played with them, and then, like, I think it was our 8th grade championship game. Coach Hoser, he was at Mount St. Joe. He had came to the game. And it was snowing. He came to the game with, like, a vest, some shorts, and some flip-flops on. We thought it was crazy, but from that moment on, I had figured out that's where I was going to go because they had one of the best offenses like in the city for high school football. So I ended up going there. Played 3 seasons there. Then my last year was during COVID, so I didn't get to play. And then ended up at Oregon.
So what did playing in those types of games do for you to prepare you for, you mentioned Oregon and obviously ultimately Tennessee. What did playing in the MIAA do for you to help prepare you for that level of competition?
I'd say the MIAA is probably one of the toughest conferences to play in, especially when I was in high school. For sure, it's one of the toughest conferences to play in Baltimore City. So I feel like having already going against a lot of top defensive players that all are going to college too. So I say just having to go against that competition at a younger age made me be able to adapt to that once I was going to get to college.
You end up at Oregon. Walk me through then how it went from Oregon that ultimately Tennessee became the place for you that was the right fit to take this next step towards the NFL.
So like at Oregon, I was there for 2 years. My first year was the COVID year, so like I took that as a year for me to learn, just get adjusted to being in college. And I definitely made a few plays that season, but I never was starting. Then at the end of that season, my whole coaching staff ended up leaving, and they went to Miami. So I had questions transferring there too. But Coach Kenny Dillingham, he recruited me heavily at Florida State while I was in high school, and he had got the offensive coordinator job at Oregon once the whole staff left, so he convinced me and my family to get me to stay for that next year. And I stuck to it. I was doing everything I needed to do. Season came, and I dealt with some injuries and stuff like that, and I wasn't starting, but I made a lot of plays, and towards the end of that season, my season really went up a lot. I had some of my best games. And then my offensive coordinator ended up getting a head coach's job at Arizona State. So then I decided to enter the portal again. And then that got me to Tennessee.
What was it about Tennessee?
That season before that, they had the Blitnikoff win at receiver, and then they had one of the I think they had no more offense that season. So having them be one of the top schools that reached out to me after I entered the portal, I felt like it was the best decision for me as a receiver wanting to go to the NFL.
It seems like it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, that makes a lot of sense that would be the place that you would go, and ultimately ended up putting up some good numbers this season. Dont'e,
definitely.
What is it now, right? Like, you get through the combine. What is it now that you're focused on? What is it now that you say, I need teams to know this about me and why it is that I'm going to be a difference maker for them when they call my name in the draft?
I'd say the biggest thing would be like me being very versatile as a receiver, and then just knowing my story and the adversity I went through, and being able to get through that type of adversity and still be successful. Showing they have a player that's really invested in the team and going to do whatever it takes for the team to be successful.
You, growing up here, were you a Ravens fan?
I was.
So have you allowed your mind to even, like, wander that way at all? Like, do you even give yourself a thought of, like, dude, what if it was purple? Like, what if that's the way that this played out?
I think about it a lot.
Do you?
And more so, like, as it got closer to the combine and stuff like that, I'm going to think about it more.
I mean, first of all,
it'll be crazy.
Like, you'd be playing with Lamar Jackson. Like,
exactly.
Let's just start with that, right? Like, my God, even if it was in Portland, Oregon, that would be an amazing thing to do. But like, do you have to stop yourself and say, like, dude, I can't let my mind go there too much because I know it could be anywhere.
Yeah, no, I definitely would say that.
Yeah,
I definitely don't. I don't get too far into it, but I definitely think about it a lot. Though it would be crazy if I came back home.
Oh my God, man! It would be one of my favorite stories of all time, right? Like, it would just be incredible. We got, like, Deontay Hardy obviously has gotten to do it the last couple of years, and that's been special to see. Bo Braid this past year got to do it. There've been a lot of stories over the years of guys who have been able to have that opportunity to stay at home, and boy, it'd be really cool to follow that up. As we talk about it, like, you fit the mold of a prototype, right? Is that what? Is there a chance that at some point during this draft somebody's going to be getting the next, like, prototype wide receiver, everything that you could ask for in a football player when they select Dont'e Thornton?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I definitely agree with that. And I feel like the biggest thing with me, a lot of people over, like, you could say, like, for people in the draft class, they've already had a lot of production and, like, met a certain ceiling. But for me, throughout my college career, my production wasn't as high. And this past season was probably like my highest. Well, it was my highest. So that goes to show and tell a lot of teams, like, I'm just hitting the light in my career. So it's only a bigger step that I can take this next level.
Like still scratching the surface, right, of
Exactly.
of what could be there. What is it from a football? Like, if you were scouting yourself as a football player, biggest strengths and biggest areas from a football standpoint that you still need to work on?
Also, my biggest strengths would be my versatility with my size and speed. I feel like I'm a big mismatch problem, especially if I'm playing in a slot against like smaller corners or linebackers.
I mean, you feel like that's something that, like, you know, you would be able to dominate those types of guys. Like, when you see one of those guys, when you see like a 5'10", 5'11" dude lined up against you when you get up there, do you sort of have like do you do like put the smile? We joke here in Baltimore because we see the smile that Derrick Henry has when he's running with the ball. Do you have that same type of smile when they send out like a 5'11" corner to face you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely do.
Like, dude, what are you doing? I'm about to eat you for lunch.
I just be hoping the quarterback see the same thing I'm seeing.
Have there been other guys, either that were older that you got to know, or guys that you played with, maybe even specifically back to Baltimore, that have continue to be in your life, that have continued to be a part of it, and maybe guys that you've reached out to as you've been going through this?
I say I've talked to Taylor Austin some, but really Courtney Bridget.
Okay.
He's from Baltimore. He played at Dunbar.
Yeah.
Ended up getting drafted, played for the Redskins. So, like, when I was younger, he used to train me. So, we still got a deep connection and stay in contact. So, he's helped me out a lot throughout this process.
Can you tell me, you mentioned, look, you know Tavon Austin's name in these parts. It's like you're talking about a folk hero, right? Like, you're just talking. Yeah. Where did that relationship come from? And because that one's fascinating to me. Obviously, similarly with the Courtney, like, you're not remotely close in age.
Yeah. So my uncle used to coach him at high school, so like they had a relationship, and then it just ended up being with him being a person that he had been with his career. He was just looking out for me because my uncle looked out for him. And then when I was younger, I trained with him the most, but he always been like a guy that I could talk to about that type of stuff, because he's been through it.
That's really cool.
At a high level.
Oh, yeah, clearly has, right? And they're having a hell of a career. And hopefully he's got to roll back here. I know he's been talking about that a lot recently, is wanting to come back and pay it forward for other kids in the city. I wonder how much of that is real to you, too, Dont'e. Like, there have been plenty of athletes that have succeeded out of this city, but it still feels like it's more difficult, right? Like, it still feels like when you're from Baltimore, you don't get the same advantages of kids from other areas, from Pennsylvania, from Ohio. Do you still feel some of that like you're representing for an entire group of people everything that you do right now?
I do feel like I'm representing, but I also feel like these younger guys that have been playing football in Baltimore are making a name for themselves. So it's bringing a lot more attention to the city. And me being one of the guys from the city who actually done it at a high level, I feel like that just makes it easier.
I respect that, man. And I respect that your path is going to make it even easier for the next person. And I appreciate that, dude. All right, so we need to know about you, right? Like, first of all, you mentioned you're a Ravens fan. What else? Like, when you're not doing football, what is
I'm really
life?
a Texans fan.
Wait, what? Wait a second. Now you're gonna break our heart. Like, where does that come from?
Yeah, I got more than one team, man.
Where did the Texans thing come from?
When I was younger playing Madden 25, I used them and they were good. That's when they had Arian Foster.
All right, I mean, okay.
As that running back.
Okay, all right, I can Plus, I hate admitting it, but like their color scheme and logo are so great, dude.
Yeah,
like,
man, it's crazy.
I had a college roommate who was from Houston. He gave me a Texans hat when we were, and I wore it because it was just like the coolest looking hat. It really worked. But what else are you into? Like, when you're not playing football, what does life look like?
I like to play the game a lot, and I got a dog, so I'll be chilling with my dog, playing the game. I'm really just chilling, really.
That's cool, man. Are you a big time Madden guy?
I'm not even a Madden guy anymore. I play NCAA, 2K.
Okay, that makes sense.
Like Grand Theft Auto.
Okay, wait. So all right, now this is the important question. Longest number of consecutive hours you've ever gamed before?
I'm not gonna lie. When I was younger, I used to play the game a lot.
Right.
But I say it depends on the day and what I got going. Especially as a young kid, I played the game for like 10 hours.
That was the number. That was the number I was looking.
Yeah, I played the game a lot. Especially like when I was in college during all season.
when you're back home, what's the thing, like, what's the comfort food, or what's your favorite thing to go get? Like, what is it when you do get the chance to come back home that you have to do while you're here?
Well, of course, see my family, but for some reason, I like Royal Farms.
I mean, bro.
So I go to Royal Farms.
So does everybody else.
Yeah.
How difficult is that to explain when you're somewhere like Tennessee and you're like, yeah, by the way, when I'm back home, we get our chicken at a gas station. Like,
yeah, they never understand it.
Right? Like, it's just what we do. That is collectively where we go to get our chicken is at our local gas station because it's great. That's the way that it works, man.
Yeah, they'll never understand it.
They'll never get it. They'll never get it. It's very unique to us, dude. There's no doubt about it. Dont'e, man, it's so great to meet you. I'm so happy for you and what a performance you put up and the way this is going to look. Let's get this. Let's tell everybody, where can they be following you social media-wise? Twitter?
Okay, you can follow me. Okay. Instagram, my Instagram is Mac11, MAC11 with 4 underscores. And then my Twitter handle is I am DTJ11.
Give Dont'e a follow in those spots. And then we always have to say this to you, like, dude, we can't wait. We're going to be rooting for you no matter what. But please understand, if it happens to be Pittsburgh, like, just please.
Oh, that would be so crazy.
Bro,
man.
Like, I know it's still going to be life-changing for you, and you're going to be thrilled. Please don't be offended by anything that we say over the course of the next few years.
That would be crazy.
Right? Is there anybody in your family that just couldn't do it? That'd be like, bro, I'm not showing up wearing a Steelers jersey. I don't care. Is there anybody in your family that wouldn't be able to? Ooh.
I don't know. Yeah, I got some family members that are Pittsburgh Steelers fans.
Okay.
But I got some family members that don't like the Ravens too. So like, it go either way for real, my family.
Nuts. But we're gonna end up, if it works out that way, we're gonna say mean things about you on social. Just we promise we don't mean it. It's not personal. It's just the way
it's all good.
Dont'e, so happy for you, dude. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning, man. Let's chat again as we move along in the process.
Oh yeah, no, most definitely. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you, bro. That's really cool. Dont'e Thornton from Tennessee. Yeah, 4.340 at 6'5". How does that sound to you? Does that sound like something you might be a little interested in? That's insane. 4'3" at 6'5". How is that possible? How is that human? I don't get it. But I'm happy for him. I'm thrilled for him. I keep saying the one thing the Ravens could really use in this room is that prototype receiver. Again, 6'5", 4'3". How does that sound? Sounds really good to me. Appreciate Dont'e Thornton taking the time for us this morning. Yes, I was going to bring it up, Chris. We were referencing everything that happened this weekend. I obviously the Tank Davis fight, of course, did too. We'll talk about it with Jeremy here in a minute because he's a huge boxing guy. Griffin was beside himself, texting me on Saturday night. I actually wasn't able to stay up to watch the fight because I was at Helping Up Mission Sunday morning.
Oh, that's right. I did forget about that.
So I wasn't able to watch until yesterday, and even then I was sort of doing the speed through to get the Rita, it's so funny. Rita on social on Saturday was going off about Yankees hats. I think because she had been doing all the CIAA stuff this week and going to the parties and seeing a bunch of them.
So okay.
And she was beside herself and multiple on her stories on her stop using a Yankees hat as an accessory. Stop it. She was just going off about it. And then of course Tank Davis wears a Yankees hat. I think I'm willing to give him a pass because the fight was in Brooklyn and he's trying to curry favor with the fans, and obviously he did the thing with Joel Santana and
he
Jim
wore
Jones.
the ceremonious weigh-in as well though.
But that's all in New York.
I know.
I know. If it's one thing, if he did that in a fight in Houston or in a fight in Vegas, then it would look. Terrell Suggs wore Yankees hats sometimes.
Yeah, so.
Jay-Z ruined this. He really did. I know that that's the famous line in Empire State of Mind is he made a Yankees hat more famous than the Yankees did, but it became post Jay-Z this cultural accessory. And the argument that you get from a lot of people is it's just clean, right? Because it's a black hat with just a little bit of white lettering. But there are other black hats with white lettering, or just plain black. I used to just keep a plain black Under Armour hat. When I was going out, believe it or not, there was a time when I was going out, it could be worn with everything, right? Like you could wear a button-down shirt and wear a plain black hat and still look good. You could just wear it with anything because it was a plain black hat. I didn't wear a Yankees hat. And then you, as Rita pointed out, some of these people are doing way too much. They're getting Yankees hats in multiple colors. So they can accessorize their Yankees hat. So they can wear it. If they're wearing green, they can have a green Yankees hat. And it's not because they're Yankees fans. They just say, look, it's a cultural thing. As Rita said, get an Orioles City Connect hat. It's also clean. I don't like the City Connect uniforms, but I said a million times, I like the hats. It's a good hat. And if you're looking for clean, if you're looking to accessorize, you want it to go with things, it's just that B, black and white, it works. I acknowledge, as I just acknowledged Dont'e Thornton, that I did have a college roommate, UMBC soccer player, who was from Houston, and this was in the infancy of the Texans. He gifted me this Texans hat. I was like, why would I wear that? And then I kept looking at it, and the one thing that I give Drew credit for, he's 1,000% right. Texans logo is dope. It's why those stupid
they're trying to change
the
it.
alternate uniform they wore this year was awful. Like, dude, you've got the thing. Like, you've got it.
Like, there's a reason, the Packers never changed their uniforms. It's like...
Yeah, but I don't think theirs are great. I just think they're traditional, right?
Exactly.
Like, that's where I differ. I think some combinations just really look good. I don't think the Packers really looks good. I think it looks kind of pukey. But it's just traditional, and we're used to it, and we associate with it, right? Like history.
I guess maybe I just have more of a problem in general with like NFL teams trying to change their uniforms every other year.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot. I do agree with that. But some color combinations I think are really good. Some color combinations I think are a little bit much, right? Like red and black always tends to look good, right? Red and blue in Houston, like the red uniforms look excellent. Excellent. I wore that Texans hat just because I thought it looked
disgusting.
Good. I know. For like a year,
Gross.
I think I wore it just because it looked good. And I was a hat guy. Like I just was looking for any hat that I could wear. I would wear any hat at that point. But that was a good looking hat. I did in the Outkast Ludacris era of Atlanta hip hop. I also wore a Braves hat. I did. I had a Braves just because
opposite conference or league.
Well, and growing up, that was the only I could watch. Actually, in fact, at a time growing up, my family didn't have HTS, so I couldn't watch every Orioles game, but I could watch every Braves game.
Figures, of course.
Just this is a thing that it'd be very difficult to explain to somebody.
Who are the big Braves?
Oh my God, this was in the 90s.
Okay, yeah, so you got
all of
the
them.
rotation,
yeah, not just the rotation, but then add in like Terry Pendleton, Fred McGriff, Gary Sheffield, Dion, like. I mean, it was a hell of Ron Gant.
You watch him play a baseball game at 1 o'clock, and then he's on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, showed up to do that. Well, it was a playoff baseball. The story was he did a playoff game and then
What year was that?
I can't remember what. No, it was the other way around. He did the Falcons game at 1.
Oh, okay.
And then it might have even been a World Series game at night in Atlanta, but the Braves were pissed about it, and so they didn't put him in the lineup. Maybe it wasn't a World Series. I don't remember exactly what the story was when he did both in one day, but it was the Falcons first. The Falcons were at 1 o'clock, and then the Braves were at night the day that he did both. But, yeah, it was a hell of a time to be – and every game was on TBS, and we got TBS in my house. But at the time, we did not have HTS. It wasn't until –
October 11th, 92.
That was the day?
Yeah.
So, was that a World Series? Because they were the World Series – well, you say that, but there were only 2 rounds of the playoffs back then.
Oh.
I still don't think it was I don't know. It might have been the World Series. There was only you had 2 teams make the playoffs in each league. Then the winner of there was an East and a West. Those winners played each other in the
they were playing the Pirates in the NLCS.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the first round. And he wasn't in the lineup. I don't know if he got in the game or not, but he wasn't in the lineup.
He played. So they were in Pittsburgh they were in Pittsburgh, and then he flew. And the Falcons were also on the road. They were in Miami.
That's right. Flew to Miami, flew back. Yeah, it wasn't even Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's wild. wild. All right, because the deal, I think the part that pissed off the Braves was their deal was we have you until baseball season ends. You don't do football until baseball season ends. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to play. I'm going to do both.
Jeez.
Something that could not happen in 2020. That would never happen.
Unless
would not happen.
Who would do it?
Too much money at stake. Too much.
Russ Wilson,
Yeah, Kyler Murray, no, not happening. All right. But yes, Rita's got a point. Stop wearing your Yankees hat. I'm trying to give Tank a pass because it was in New York and he was trying to curry favor.
In the round I picked
That's a different conversation. Well, he didn't knock him out in any round, obviously.
I know.
That's a different conversation. We'll let Jeremy share his thoughts on that when we come back in. Jeremy Conn next, Glenn Clark Radio.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from driveeasymd.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at driveeasymd.com.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Glenn Clark and I sit down for a Q&A with Orioles owner David Rubenstein, discussing what he learned from his first year as owner, his goals both on and off the field, and his involvement in baseball decisions. Also inside, Brooks DeBose profiles new Oriole Tyler O'Neill, and we meet college lacrosse players from around the state. Press Box is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farms stores. Or you can read the entire issue online at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps.
Need a trophy or award that's as unique as the achievement? Look no further than Crown Trophy. With locations in Owings Mills and Gaithersburg, they specialize in custom trophies, plaques, and medals for any occasion. From sports and academic awards to employee recognition and corporate gifts, visit crowntrophy.com today and let them help you create a lasting memory for your school, team, or business. Crown Trophy is a proud supporter of the Maryland Public Secondary Schools Athletic Association. crowntrophy.com.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCRs, continue along on a Monday edition of the program. This is, yes, Dave. Dave says, I guess we're not talking about that story of the girl from Would You Rather Wednesday last week. Did you see? You remember the story of
the Ole Miss kid? Yeah.
Apparently,
some of it
the
was
allegations are that it's not.
Well,
yeah,
there's a lot of truth to it, but
it's not what you think or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I guess so.
And
or
I guess
they're trying to.
She's threatening to sue Pat McAfee and Barstool and like all these people. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna leave it alone. Not that I think that she's gonna seek out.
Really add to the list.
Yeah,
Press Box.
I'm just gonna choose that can live from Would You Rather Wednesday last week and never need to bring it up again, unless. I don't know. There's some sort of follow-up information that's relevant to the story.
I'll keep it on it. Don't worry.
But yeah, apparently she went off this weekend and is going to sue everybody. So there's that.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess there. Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. I don't know. I also have no opinion about Travis Hunter saying that what he does is more difficult than what Shohei Ohtani does. I have no.
Who was saying that? Or Travis Hunter said that?
Yeah, Travis Hunter apparently at the Combine compared and said it was more. What he does is more difficult than Shohei Ohtani, both hitting and pitching, and the entire internet proceeded to dunk on him. And I get it, right? I think what we're dunking on more is just the name Shohei Ohtani. Like, we have decided that Shohei Ohtani is putting himself in the conversation of one of the greatest baseball players of all time, really. Like, that's where we are with Shohei Ohtani. So when you compare yourself to that, it's the wrong comparison. But if Travis Hunter's point is that it's more difficult in football because you have to know entire playbooks on both sides of the field and do entire scouts of the other team and both sides of those teams, then I'm not saying he's right, but he might have a point in just the difficulty of doing it. I think what we're hearing is Travis Hunter is better than Shohei Ohtani. I don't know that we know with certainty that Travis Hunter is even – it's funny, we were just talking about Deion Sanders. I don't even know that we know that Travis Hunter is definitively going to be used as a full-time two-way player. I think there's still a lot of subterfuge there from teams that are all trying to say the right things, like, yeah, you know. But I don't know. I'd still be surprised if he wasn't ultimately – really just a wide receiver in the NFL that may be occasionally used in other ways. I think what led the internet to dunking on him was Travis Hunter's trying to say he's better than Shohei Ohtani, and we just know the greatness of Shohei Ohtani, and Travis Hunter hasn't accomplished that yet. Which doesn't mean that, like, the Heisman Trophy isn't nothing. Like, it's significant that he won the Heisman Trophy. But it was a complicated thing where we're not really sure if Travis Hunter was the best player in college football this year as much as he was just the most unique player in college football in a year where there wasn't an obvious standout choice to win that we ultimately defaulted to him. I think there's still plenty of fascinating questions about Travis Hunter. I think among them is, if your team was drafting him, would you want him to be used as a two-way player? Or would you ultimately say, maybe he's available to do that if we're depleted, if you need it, but I would rather him just focus on being the best blank moving forward. But there is something to be said for, like, baseball's different than football. Like, I don't think it's as nuts as you're making it out to be. I just think that you're angry at the idea of Travis Hunter comparing himself to Shohei Ohtani because Shohei Ohtani is already definitively one of the greatest players of all time, and Travis Hunter hasn't been there. But the point of how difficult it might be to do both things in football comparison to baseball, there might be something to be said for that. It is a Monday. Joining us now here on GCR. You hear him on the Big Bad Morning Show, ConcreteLocks.com. He is my friend Jeremy Conn, and he's back with us now. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
What's up, man? Just missed out on winning an Oscar last night. I was so close.
Son of a bitch. Dude, I'm telling you, I said this to Griffin. I gave up on watching the Oscars a few years ago just because I don't watch any of these movies. Like, I don't know. And the Oscars sort of low-key stink. Like, we don't –
yeah.
No one cares who won – we can make fun of the fact that they only give away like 6 Grammys on the Grammy Awards, but the point is that's kind of what we like about it. We just want to watch a concert. We just want to watch all the musicians. We don't really want to watch a bunch. Imagine if they gave out like a bunch of sound mixing awards on the Grammys, and they're like, here's the guy that you've never heard of that's going to come out. The Academy Awards low-key stink. And what?
We need Chris Rock to get slapped again by
that's what we got going for.
That's what.
Right.
Well, to your point though, like I brought this up earlier. Not that we talked a ton about the Oscars, but I've seen most of the movies that were up, and I love the movie Anora, which is like Pretty Woman if it didn't have the ultimate happy ending that everybody wants. And it was really, really good. And I was talking about how people are like, that person shouldn't have won and that one should have won. And it's like, if you didn't see all the movies, you don't get to make that claim.
Yeah,
yet.
that's exactly what it is. You saw this movie and you like, for example, I telling you, I haven't seen Honora yet. Now I absolutely will watch Honora. Of all of these movies that got nominated, I had seen A Real Pain and I had seen A Complete Unknown. And that's the list, right? Like, that's it. So Kieran Culkin won. I thought Kieran Culkin was phenomenal in A Real Pain.
I did too.
I thought he was incredible.
I thought his speech last night was amazing. If you didn't hear it,
it did start showing up on my feed this morning, so I will probably spend time with it. But like, if somebody else had won, I would be able to have no opinion about it whatsoever. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I've seen the 5. What was it? The movies that were up for Best Picture, except for the one that Zoe Saldana won on. That's the only one I haven't. Well, I shouldn't say that because we're watching The Brutalist this week with Adrian Brody. But I did want to bring this up to you. I saw somebody tweet it online. It says Adrian Brody's had the most insane career. He won an Oscar 20 years ago, and then he's been putting out movies that are straight to DVD or straight to
nobody
whatever.
Knows them, yes.
And then here it is. Here's The Brutalist, and it just shows you like he is an amazing actor. But again, like some of those movies, it's really tough for people because they're so slow, and you really have to invest your time and pay attention.
But do you actually sit down and watch the Oscars, or do you just watch what pops up on social media?
No, I used to, but it just became a situation where I felt like it was just everyone kissing everyone's ass.
It's just I'm out.
Yeah,
I'm out, man.
There's not like when you talk about the Grammys, it's like, hey, I like wondering who's going to win and being upset over that and everything or whatever, or being happy. But you get like musicians playing together, maybe some songs you've never heard them play before. So I thought, like, I'll watch the Grammys, but we used to have parties to watch the Oscar, me and my friends, and then it got to the point where it's like, I haven't seen 3 of these movies yet, so what do I care?
Yeah, I've only seen 3 of these movies is more where I'm at that point. All right, let me run it by you just because we're bringing it up. Is Travis Hunter nuts, or are we just overreacting to him? I feel like if Shohei Ohtani wasn't Shohei Ohtani, if there was some other player who was both hitting and pitching but wasn't as good as Shohei Ohtani was, we wouldn't think it is as crazy what Travis Hunter said. I feel like what we're really reacting to is just him putting his name in the same sentence as Shohei Ohtani, which is not realistic. Shohei Ohtani is maybe one of the greatest baseball players of all time. That's not good. But I do think he might have a point about how difficult it would be if he really is going to do this at the next level and having to study 2 different playbooks and scout each team on both sides of the ball. Like that to me might be even more difficult, honestly, than pitching and being a DH or even playing in the outfield.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard because there really is no comparison. I would have sat here and said that I thought what he's doing is more akin to a switch hitter. But again, you'd have to be good from both sides of the plate. But again, that's not fair to him. And I don't think it's fair to sit here and compare him to Shohei Ohtani because no matter what you say, like getting ready for 2 different things, that's one thing, and preparing all week. The other part of it is he's doing 2 different jobs that aren't even similar. Like one's swinging a bat, the other one's throwing. And to get to that high of a level, I just think it's impressive. But to be fair to Travis Hunter, there's really not a lot of things you can compare it to. There's nothing in basketball. I don't know if there's anything in hockey because I don't know guys that play offense, defense, whatever. Maybe you can talk about a complete player. But I don't know why he would want to do it because now you're wearing yourself out. You're like if he does it to a degree where it's like, hey, I'm going out for 10 routes in a game.
Yeah, and then I'm going to
be a quarterback.
Right.
That makes more sense to me.
That makes complete sense. Although I think a lot of people would argue his best value is as a receiver, and I think it would be much harder. I think what you just said is like plausible. I think it's way more difficult if you're a full-time receiver to try to be like a spot cornerback, right? Like you got to be. I think you can draw up plays where he doesn't have to know the whole playbook, but he can come in as a cornerback and run on the field as an offensive player. I think it's a way more difficult thing to do it the other way.
In this day and age, though, it's not smart. Like, I don't know how a business person or his agent or whoever's going, you're going to wear yourself out in the same game, shorten your career because you're playing both sides of the ball. And, I mean, now, like, I know, like, you can get hurt at any moment, but the more you play, the more opportunities you have to get hurt and something goofy happening. And you're working your ass off to just make the same that everybody else is going to make on a rookie contract. So I hate saying it because like you want to see him do it because it's such a cool thing.
It's such an anomaly.
But I think the smart thing is to pick one of those positions. And honestly, I'd rather see him at corner. I think he's a good wide receiver. I thought he was a better corner. But the scouts may tell you different.
I would listen to that argument, and if I were a team, that would be my preference as well. I like the anomaly is cool and all, and he kind of anomalied his way to being a Heisman Trophy winner. And I hate saying that because it feels like I'm taking it away from him, but I do think the point is the point, which is like no one thought he was the best cornerback. No one thought he was the best wide receiver. He just happened to be good enough at both that he was able to win a Heisman Trophy because of it. But it's one thing.
He's white Brent Berry dunking from the free throw line, so we give him the slam dunk championship.
There is something to be said for that. There is something to be said for that.
Wow, I saw that before, but a white guy did
right,
it.
It's a white man. He's not Michael Jordan. He's white. It's so much more incredible. All right.
We have Mac.
So where you at with the Javonte thing?
I mean, look, he should have lost the fight by the rule or letter of the law, if you want to talk about it. I don't know what's real. If he actually had grease in his hair, it seemed like he wanted to get his face wiped off.
So bizarre.
I retweeted what Roach responded to him, which I love, and he's like, man, they robbed me of a win and this and that and going on. And then Roach was like, dude, you took a knee. Had they called that, you won that round by 2 referees. If they called it correctly, I win in unanimous fashion.
So Rita watched the fight. I wasn't, because I had to be up at 5 a.m. on Sunday, so I didn't get to watch the fight live, and I kind of sped through it when I watched it yesterday. She said that at some point Roach went to a knee during the fight. Did that happen?
A lot of people are saying that. I don't know if it's the same. They're looking at that and talking about it.
Okay.
The difference between this, in my opinion, and he's trying to say it didn't come after a hit. He went down to a knee. The ref started counting. And when the refs – sometimes if you're going down to a knee, you can be pushed. People were going back to, oh, God, was it the Mayweather-De La Hoya fight? Or there was another fight where a guy fell down and said, see, he took a knee. But it was on a push as they were mixing it up inside.
Okay.
I'd have to go back and look at that knee to see what happened there. But this is clearly one where he took a knee, the ref started counting, and then the ref just stopped and said, okay, come on back. That stuff doesn't happen. And I'll say this much, just full disclosure. I love watching Tank box. I am not a Tank fan. I'd like to see him lose every fight he gets into. So just because he's from Baltimore, I'm not rooting for him. I hate more people from Baltimore than I do anywhere else.
Is that because of like the personal stuff, like some of the stuff that he's done, or is it just his style?
Well, all right, I'll give you an example, and it's more of a me thing, and I think we've talked about this. I had 3 separate interviews set up with him where I had to come in at 10 o'clock, and I hosted a 2 o'clock show. He no-showed all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Agent, like his handler, ghosted me, and I said, man, you asked me to do this to promote your fight. I didn't call you and ask you to come on the show.
Yeah.
And to do that, and then again, people pick and choose who they want to root for. I don't think he's a good person, man. I think he's, some of the things that have been brought up that he's done with domestic violence and all the other stuff. And not that you have to be a saint.
Right.
I mean, this is boxing, for crying out loud, but I don't have to root for you just because you're from the same city I'm from.
I understand that. I get it. I completely get it. I guess that's it's the small. I have no connection to I don't have a fighter that I'm a fan of, right? So like I'm inclined, like it's maybe good for the if Javonte Davis is relevant, that's good for Baltimore. It's good for business. And like I will say that the fight that they had at Royal Farms Arena was one of the most incredible atmospheres I've ever experienced at a sporting event locally. I mean, it is hard.
If I could say this full disclosure, I didn't like Tom Brady, but I love watching him play.
Sure.
I'm not a fan of Tanks. I was more of a Lomachenko fan if you're looking at guys today, but I love so many different boxers. And I just like seeing great fights. And the weird thing about this is a lot of people were talking, I can't believe he took the fight against Roach. Not that they're worried about Tank losing, but those guys had fought in the amateurs. They'd sparred together, and every time they fought, it was a close fight. I mean, Tank wound up on the winning side. And we'll see if there's a rematch. I mean, Tank's saying a lot online, but he's not the one that's going to make that decision. His promoters are.
Well, and this is the interesting part is that, like, the hope was you would come out of this fight and finally be able to line up at least a Shakur Stevenson fight, right? Like, which I'm not even sure how great of a fight that is, as much of it's just like we're desperate for anything that feels relevant. Like, we made a Ryan Garcia fight feel like it was relevant.
Tank dismissed him when he fought him. So.
Yeah, I don't even know how great is Shakur, but again, at least we've heard of it's one of at least we've heard of him. Like it would feel big.
I think Stevenson is really good. I think if Tank's focused and fighting the way that he's capable of, because there are a lot of times it seems like he's head hunting for that knockout. I did see him going to the body quite a bit and doing some other stuff, but there was a report where, a boxing reporter went up to Tank to say, hey, I don't know if you know this, but you throw the second least amount of punches amongst all boxers that are boxing today. And he's like, really? And he goes, yeah, they told him a percentage, but then they told him the percentage of knockouts he has and power punches.
Right.
And then it's like, you kind of see why, but Tank was kind of caught off guard, and he's like, man, I got to throw more punches. So look, he's a great fighter. But I just want to see him fight top-notch competition, and that is Shakur.
I just wonder if that's going to happen now, or if it's just going to be another Roach fight, and that's going to be the end of it. Like, that's just it. And then,
Well, Shakur tweeted out and said, hey, I'll fight Roach. But, like, to be fair, like, Roach is a good fighter that matches up well with Tank. I don't think he matches up the same way with Shakur.
Okay. It's interesting, man.
Yeah.
But you think he should have lost the fight?
Tank?
Yes.
Yeah, if they count the knee, he should have lost. I mean, look, it's a very evenly matched fight, and when you're fighting on that type of level, I almost feel like Tank's the name, so you have to beat him to win that title. The problem is, and I said this on our show today, like me being a degenerate and wanting to bet on things, I hardly ever bet on boxing. A guy told me a long time ago, don't bet on sports where there's judges.
Yeah,
because
correct.
You can't control what's going to happen to them, and it is very easy for people to get to those judges.
It's interesting. I never know, right? Like, this is why that type of stuff. I hate the fact that, like, I'm going to default back to I have stopped. I got out of the UFC some time ago because I started. There's a bunch of different reasons.
It's getting so good now too. There's so many good fighters.
Boy, you can tell me that, and Griffin tries to tell me that, but like the circus stuff, I just had no, like the CM Punk stuff and the like.
Oh yeah,
it's just.
I
so
wanted to see Greg
contrived.
Hardy get his head knocked off. But it is funny too to just kind of look at the sports and what's going on. And Rob brought it up today. He said, "How come the judges don't have to show their score after every round? Because we don't know what they're doing the entire fight." And when we had Harold Letterman going, "Okay, Tim, here's the score. Here's what I have," and he's going through his whole bit. We don't have something legitimate, because I don't know how many fights I watch where Harold Letterman's scoring it.
No,
and the
to your
three
point,
judges have it way different than what he
There's no
has.
reason why you shouldn't be able to, and it makes people wonder, did you go back and change the score of a round at some point because you wanted the fight to be a certain way? Like, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no reason. The round's over. You should be able to say publicly what the score was for that round. It shouldn't be hidden in secrecy. It's something that probably should have existed a long time ago, and yet here we are decades later, and it hasn't changed. It's just what it is. Jeremy Conn is with us here on GCR. All right, I don't know what grabs your attention right now. Like, what is, besides the fight on Saturday? Like, what did you give your most attention to over the course of the weekend?
I mean, it's been college basketball. Like, I think these weekends, one of the days is always like, oh my God, where am I going to go today? Because there's so many good games, and I found myself just kind of watching everything. I thoroughly enjoyed Maryland, Penn State, even though Juju couldn't make a layup. I think what's going on in the SEC is just some of the best basketball I've seen. It feels damn near impossible to win on the road. But the other thing I would say is, like, I'm so into this Orioles team. I don't care about spring training, but I do like watching the young guys play, and the fact that Bautista's coming back today, I would like to see it. Not that I care if he gives up 4 runs or doesn't even give up a hit.
Yeah, look, I got to tell you, I've gotten to a place where, like, I just can't watch spring training baseball. I can't do it. Like,
I'm with you.
If I was
like
there,
to see what happens.
And I said this, like, if I was there, I don't, not that I'd want to be there for work, but if I was there just for fun, if somebody just said, hey, let's go down to Sarasota next week, like, hang out, we'll go to the beach, maybe go check something else out, and then maybe go to whatever, then I could have fun and just go watch, because I do get like, living in Arizona, that really did something for me, where I was like, wow, I'm really watching Vladimir Guerrero.
That had to be cool.
Dude, it was the greatest thing in the world. It was it's the best weather you could ever ask for, after it's been, like, you get these perfect days for a month. I was doing the bit where we were doing Sporting News Radio on the weekends, so the radio station offered me a day off, and I took Fridays, so I could just go to, like, an afternoon game, an afternoon Giants game, and then go to, like, a Brewers game at night and just drink all day and watch baseball. Now, apparently, you can't even, like, what made it great was you were watching the greatest players in baseball play in minor league baseball stadiums, and you were only paying, like, $12 a ticket. Like, it was just incredible, right? Like, But apparently those days are over. Like the spring training tickets have become hot commodities over the years, and you can't even do that. But, man, life was worth living. And I was going. I can go. Well, but watching on TV.
Are you a lot like me? Like, you can't wait for football to come back. You can't wait for baseball. And then spring training or preseason games start. And you go,
I'm out.
Why was I waiting for this? And I don't mean to – I'm not dismissing anybody that enjoys it, but I can't put any stock in anything because the only thing I legitimately care about – I don't care if you come out with a 10-run ERA or a 0-run ERA, although the one obviously looks impressive to some people. I just want you to come out healthy. So the biggest things to me are Westberg and Henderson and what's happened to them so far,
when do they get back?
And the return of Bautista,
No, I think that's fair. I would say – I don't remember exactly when it happened to me. It happened to me first with football where I said – I don't want to watch this. I don't want to.
Especially if your first game's the Hall of Fame game, because that is just trash.
It's dreck. But it went beyond that. It went to I felt like it was actually hurting me. I feel like we watch these things thinking that we were learning something. Like that I'm spending my time with it, so it has to be valuable. And the truth was, it was the exact opposite of that. You would watch these games and convince yourself that some guy who popped in a preseason game needed to be on the roster. How dare you not give the roster spots to the guys that were the best when, like, they know better. They know better. They're like, dude, he got lucky and when nobody was trying happened to put up some big numbers. He's not an NFL player. And I actually realized that it was there's probably a name for this theory. I was learning less. I was hurting my knowledge base by watching preseason games because I was convincing myself that any of it was real. When the truth is, it's not real, nor is it really going into the decision. We do this with spring training. Some guy goes off in spring training, and we're like, how dare they not put him on the roster? They know better.
Jake Fox, 10 bombs.
Jake Fox hit 10. I'll never forget him hitting 10 home runs in spring training. But, they know better. They know that somebody wasn't facing legitimate major league pitchers or – they've dove in on this, or even if they hit a home run,
or a pitcher was working on his fastball and getting the location
that wasn't
down.
A real out pitch. It was just a pitch that he was working on. They know. We're dumber for having watched. I know this sounds crazy, but that's where I got. The more evidence I had, I was worse for it. And so it was better for me to simply not watch. None of this is real. You will convince yourself that it's real. And I would come on these shows there was literally a moral high ground. How dare this team not put X player on the roster? You saw what they did in spring training. They know he's one of their best 25 guys. How dare they? This is proof they're not trying. I would say that crap. I knew what I was talking about because I had spent the time with it, so it needed to matter. And I had to learn that I was the idiot. I was the dope. And I just had to stop watching. I had to. Now, to your point, I'll probably throw the game on today because Felix Bautista is third on the mound. In the same way, I do want to see that. I just want to see Felix Bautista on a mound and feel good about life again. But
because when I see him, that makes me realize that Craig Kimbrell's not here anymore.
Correct. This is, and I'm not. It's not the entirety of what happened last year. I'm in a weird place, man. We've been talking about it for the last couple of weeks. It has been hard for the strange nature of the offseason to dissipate. And I don't want to say bad offseason because who knows, right? Maybe Tyler O'Neill's going to hit 50 home runs this season. But it was a really weird offseason. And because of that, it was disappointing. And those feelings, it's hard to shake them. But then I got to remind myself, this is still a good baseball team. It is.
Yeah, they're going to be in the playoffs unless the whole team gets the flu. But to your point about it, though, you're looking at these guys, and the thing that Rob and I keep going back to is everybody wants them to make these big splashes and sign superstars, but I think our superstars are already here. And I know maybe I'm ahead of myself a little bit on that, but Westberg, Adley, and Gunnar were all all-stars already this early into their careers, and I think those guys are going to excel and get better. I think Santander going to the Blue Jays, even though the Orioles made some last-ditch effort to bring him back, it opens up more bats for Kierstead, which I want to see. And then you have Tyler O'Neill, and they're going to platoon. So I don't think Tyler O'Neill has to have better numbers or similar numbers than Santander. But I do think depending on how much they platoon, if we're looking at it and guys they got a lot of mouths to feed. This is a very deep team. It just they didn't make that cannonball splash that everyone thought, or at least keep your own pitcher. But I still make the case that I don't want to sign any pitcher that's 30 years old to an 8-year deal or a 7-year deal, because the only one that's worked out is Max Scherzer.
Right. I understand what you're saying. It's just that, like, it just means that you're not going to get those guys, right? Like, that's the tricky part about it. I know inherently.
How about the rumor that they turned down the Cease trade for Chase McDermott? Like, there was I don't know if it's true or not, but I read it online, so it has to be true.
Right, obviously.
But they said that the Orioles denied the Padres Chase McDermott in a swap for Dylan Cease. Now, that's 1 year of Dylan Cease, but maybe that tells you what they think about McDermott too. But are they going to become the team that nobody wants to call because they're not going to trade that guy? I think that's a fair thing to talk about.
I think it might be in that conversation. Look, I know you're buddies with Keith Law. Keith Law was trying to push me a couple weeks ago that, like, they should be willing to trade Kobe Mayo to get Dylan Cease if that's what it took. And I was like, dude, that sounds outrageous. But I get his point. His point is, what is Kobe Mayo? And right now, right? Like, right now, what is he? And the answer is not going to be on this team.
Right now he's 4A until we get the chance to see him actually play more at the major league level, because he did nothing. And it's not fair to him. It's a small sample size. He did nothing to impress last year in September.
And there's just no room for him, to the point of everybody they have on the roster. There is no room for Kobe Mayo, short of injuries, short of something being worse for one of these guys. There's no room for him to be on the roster. So if he's not on the roster right now, and he doesn't have playing time until next year, and then maybe like Jackson Holiday, he's not ready for it, when is Kobe Mayo actually helping your team? And by that point, are you at a place where you're starting to think about whether or not you have to trade away Gunnar Henderson because you're not signing him? Like, I understood.
You could get to that point.
I understood his point. It felt way too rich for my blood, right? I'm like, dude, you're crazy. There's no way you're trading Mayo for a guy whose contract expires this year. But I do get it, which is like, but at some point, you got to go try to win a World Series. Like, you have all these guys. Are you going to go win a World Series? And maybe they don't need that. Maybe Grayson Rodriguez really will take that proverbial next step this year. He'll be that ace. Zach Eflin will back up what he did a year ago. And they'll get enough pitching from the other guys. Kyle Bradish comes back, perhaps. Like, we might get to this point where we say, boy, they were right. They didn't need that guy. But there's a lot of maybes involved with that.
Yeah, because the problem is like, I mean, they told us a long time ago they were going to run this team like a business, like the Rays do.
Right.
And we're going to spend a little bit more money and hopefully keep our own. And I don't think they've changed from what they said. They've continued to do that. And honestly, like, it's unfair to fans to say, hey, they spent more money this offseason. And like, I'm not trying to slap you in the face and say, hey, wake up. This is what they've done. They did spend money, but it's not the type of money that people wanted.
Yep.
And for me, it's like, okay, if we're playing chess here, are you telling me that the money you're not spending now, that you're going to make a realistic shot at signing Gunnar Henderson? Because, look, there's still a chance they could offer $700 and some million, and somebody comes in with the first $1 billion offer.
Yeah,
he's
sure.
gone.
Yeah,
you know?
100%. And look, we all know this. Scott Boras does not do this. He does not do free agency contracts. So I've just kind of made peace with it. Like, this is your one shot was early in this process, and you didn't do it. It's not happening. That's just sort of where I am, and that's why I want to see him be aggressive. To the point, and I'll wrap with this. The flip side argument was made. What was most incongruent to me is you just watched Connor Norby expire within your organization. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to be too overdramatic about it, because I don't think Connor Norby is going to be, a 10-time All-Star or something like that. But he was a guy that had value that you never had a role for, you kept around, and ultimately gave up essentially for nothing. And I don't want it. Trevor Rogers could still prove to be something, maybe. But even when the trade was made, before he had failed miserably, all of us were scratching our heads about it. You just basically said he expired, right? Like, he didn't have great value anymore. He was no longer viewed as a top prospect. He was a guy that needed to be.
He was blocked here at that point, right? Like, you've got so many people in front of him. It's like, okay, we can move him.
And what you just asked earlier, what you brought up earlier about, like, are you just platooning everybody so you can find Heston Kjerstad at bats? Like, Heston Kjerstad has looked quite blocked and has veered into that territory of, is he going to expire? And could Kobe Mayo be the one after that, where his greatest value as a prospect ultimately expires here? And that's what's confusing to me. J.J. Cooper from Baseball America says there's inherent value in depth, that what they have, the Yankees don't have, which is if Mountcastle, O'Hearn, they were to get hurt, the Orioles have answers. The Yankees don't have answers if their top guys get hurt. And
all their top guys are old, too.
Yeah.
Almost.
And I'm trying to listen to that as being a good argument, but it's tough, man, because, like, again, if you're going to be like the Rays, if you're not going to be spending that money, it feels like you need to use these assets when they're the most valuable. And I hate talking about human beings that way, but, you get what I'm saying.
But it is what it is. I mean, we're talking sports, so it's like player A, player B. But real quick before you run, like the point of with the Orioles, too, is I almost feel like Kobe Mayo's ready before they're ready to move on from Ryan Mountcastle, or they haven't found the right partner and trying to get something for him. And the same thing, like Enrique Bradfield Jr. is going to be maybe ready right as they decide to get rid of Cedric Mullins, or, if he's the one that replaces him when he's gone, or a year afterwards. That's what it feels like here, is that they have layers coming in where they don't want it to just be one singular window. They just want the window to be open for as long as possible, and not, these are your 5 years. You got to make a run at it.
We'll see.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fair, right? Like, dude, I wish I had the answer for what, like, I am at the age now where I know that I don't have the definitive answer. I'm going to yell, I'm going to have an opinion, and I'm going to feel something, but I can't say that it's right. I know that, and I'm going to be excited when we get to opening day, but I'm convinced they start like 10-13. There's going to be a lot of consternation about the offseason around here. There's going to be a lot
I think
of
so too. But I'm so excited because I don't think that happens. I think this
although
team
they've got a really difficult schedule out of the chute. Like, it's loaded.
I don't think the Blue Jays are going to be that good though, personally. And here's what I'd rather face them later than early in the season. And understanding that's
you think they might start moving some pieces and
Well, maybe. I just don't like they have their ownership reminds me of what the Orioles were doing in the 2000s where, and granted, they had some young players and some pieces in Vlad and Bichette, but like you let Teoscar go, you let Lourdes Gurriel go, like Kevin Biggio kind of played himself out of a role, and then you go and get George Springer, who's done nothing but get hurt since he's been there. And now they threw money at Santander because they missed out on Ohtani, and they missed out on Soto, and they were trying to make some big splash, and now while you're doing all that, now you don't know if Vlad even wants to come back. So you might miss out on him after all of this. And I think their pitching is very underwhelming throughout the course of the year. I love Max Scherzer, but I think he's going to get beat up. So we'll see.
All right, what's the week will look like for you?
So it's just Rob and I. Ed's out, and so we'll be obviously chatting about all this stuff over and over again with spring training. We'll be talking about the mountain tomorrow, and then kind of leading into March Madness, where Maryland has a huge game this week and a chance, if they knock off Michigan, to maybe get one of those buys in the Big Ten tournament, and then maybe even be a 4 seed or better come March Madness. So I think this team winning at Penn State, whether people want to give it credit or not, when that's been a house of horrors, that's a huge win.
They don't do that. It was gutting what happened last week. It's one of the most gutting things I've ever seen. And you're wrecked for Jacoby Gillespie, who's been so good for this team that like he's at the center of that. You know what I mean? Like you're wrecked for him. But the thing that concerned me most, the actual loss is not that it's a really good team. They lost it on a miracle at the buzzer. Like that's not a big deal. It was what was the follow up to that? Did that bleed over? Were they not able to recover?
And it's so easy for that to happen 100%. To these guys when you face an inferior opponent.
Yep.
And that's what I was telling everybody. Like, I don't like this spot for them, but they can show me a lot if they're able to go in there and win. And I don't care if it's by a point or by 30.
Agreed. Completely agreed. I thought that was huge. And so it gets that taste of they weren't doomed by what happened against Michigan State. Like, they answered the bell. They got back up. They played. And I think they're going to be all right. At Concrete,
I think Juju just grabbed another rebound and missed a layup, by the way. So
tough. But he's been great. Again, he's also been great all season long. Like that's been one of my favorite stories of the year.
Look, he was amazing on Saturday, except for it looked like there was a lid on the rim when he was shooting. But look at all the ancillary stats and everything he did. I mean, offensive rebounds out the woodwork, man.
ConcreteLocks.com, at JCon Sports, the Big Bad Morning Show, 105.7 The Fan. Love you, buddy. Appreciate you. We'll talk again next week, all right?
See you guys.
It's Jeremy Conn with us here on GCR. Stan the Fan and Luke are headed down to Sarasota this week to provide you spring training coverage. And it's all brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel, Costas Inn, Easy Pass, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. Be following along, PressBoxOnline.com, at PressBoxOnline on Twitter. I was trying to remember what the Twitter account was, at PressBoxOnline. Right? It's bad PressBox. It's not PressBox Sports. PressBox Online, yeah. I don't know what happened to me there.
Yes, PressBox.
Too many of these things. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Lots of coverage coming your way. Stan and Luke are headed down to Sarasota. We come back in, get a tidbit, get tubular, and wrap things up for a Monday edition of GCR.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in Maryland. But don't worry. Protection is within arm's reach. Protect your health with this year's COVID-19 and flu shots. It's safe and convenient to get them both at the same time. Flex your protection. For more information, visit health.maryland.gov/vaccines.
This message paid for by the Maryland Department of Health.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
You're gonna love February at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Sweeten your Valentine's Day with a chocolate bar February 13th and 14th. Pamper yourself and your partner with Valentine's Day spa discounts February 10th through 21st. Celebrate the Year of the Snake and win a Lunar New Year luxury brand collection February 28th. Plus more ways to play, dine, and win all month. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Glenn Clark and I sit down for a Q&A with Orioles owner David Rubenstein, discussing what he learned from his first year as owner, his goals both on and off the field, and his involvement in baseball decisions. Also inside, Brooks DeBose profiles new Oriole Tyler O'Neill, and we meet college lacrosse players from around the state. Press Box is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farms stores, or you can read the entire issue online at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here on GCR. Hang on. So, you know how much of an old man I am.
Uh-oh, did you,
I did it again.
Okay.
I did it again. Now, I know this time that I left it at the radio station. Like, I know it. I didn't. Last Monday, I genuinely thought that I left my cord at home, and so it became a wild goose chase. I lost 2.5 hours of my day wandering back, wandered the whole thing. Today, I know exactly where the cord is. The cord is sitting at the radio station because I texted Jeremy this morning. And I said, hey, buddy, think I effed up. I'm 100 years old. I've done it back-to-back Sundays now. So it won't be a wild goose chase today. It'll just be a quick trip over to the radio station to get the cord. But it's it ain't great that I just can't plug my computer in on Sundays is what it's going to have to be. Like, I'm just going to have to make sure that the computer's charged the night before. Or the suggestion that Lee, our office manager, made is, why don't you just get another cord? And like the answer is because Apple charges you like $500 for cords.
Well,
it's how they get you.
What's that's the
what is this? This is a
I guess do you even know what year that's an Air, right?
It is. Hang on, let me do an about my Mac. About this Mac. It's a MacBook Air Apple M2 chip. MacBook Air 2022.
Okay. All right. So that's pretty MacBook Air 22.
Yeah, see if you can find a burner cord for me that doesn't cost $1 billion, I'll get a burner cord. I'm all for it. But they just charge you so bloody much for cords that, like...
maybe this probably isn't going to be the heaviest duty, cord, but according to Amazon, $20.
Oh, okay. Well, then go ahead. Go ahead. You said you got it, right?
Well...
to help. No, just forward that to me and I'll buy it. I'll do it. I don't care. Heavy dude. Have you seen my cord? It's like completely frayed.
Yeah, I know.
It's going to go up
Might
at
as
any
well buy
moment
2
now.
of these.
Yeah, serious. What was I talking? Oh, somebody, Jeff, I believe it was. What do you make of Odafe Owe's tweets this weekend? So I heard about this, but I did not. I don't know anything about it. Odafe Owe apparently sent out a tweet on, was it Friday? Yeah, on Friday. That was it just looked like a deuces. I guess technically that could also be peace. I don't know, but it looked like it was deuces. Then the following day, he sent a tweet that said, "Man, I hope not, but God's plan always wins." Now that's a pretty cryptic pair of tweets.
This is his first time tweeting in 2.5 years.
Correct. That's a hell of a cryptic set of tweets. So what do I make of it? I got no idea. No clue what to make of that, man. You got a guess? Because I got nothing.
No, I don't have a guess.
There is no world.
Bored? Just bored, I guess, hopefully.
Like, so they picked up Odafe Owe's fifth-year option last year. So he's on the team. He's not a pending free agent. He's not. I keep trying to run through my mind, like, what could it be that the Ravens said, we're just letting you know now we're not intending to sign you? Like, his camp went to the Ravens and said, hey, free agency's a year away. We want to try to deal with this now. Let's go ahead and get something done. And the Ravens said, yeah, we're not planning on extending Odafe. We'll let you go to free agency and see what the market looks like next year. Is that possible? Now, why he would send a deuces, that would seemingly be the type of thing that you would do if you were off the team, which I guess it's possible the Ravens are trading, but that seems badass, right? Like, what? Here's why none of this makes sense. So, as a lot of people on the internet reminded, it's quite possible that Odafe Owe's tweets have nothing to do with football at all, or the Ravens, or anything like that. That there's something in his personal life that he's going through, someone he lost, like whatever. I don't know. Until presumably these tweets caught the attention of those that cover the Ravens or cover the NFL. And this is where it does become tricky, because there is less direct connection between the local media and the top folks with the Ravens than there was once upon a time. And so maybe in a world where, I don't know, Ian Rappaport had bigger fish to fry over the course of the last week.
Literally.
Yeah. Maybe they're not as concerned, or it just hasn't gotten on their radar. You would think that a pair of tweets like this would get the gander of people that would want answers, and if there was something to them, that would have been reported by now. Like, you would just think that. But I get it. It was a busy week. It was Combine week. Like, Odafe Owe is not a major star in the NFL, so Odafe Owe's tweets perhaps didn't catch the eye of Adam Schefter, and so Adam Schefter didn't reach out to Eric DeCosta and say, hey, man, can you just tell me if there's something here? I don't know. But you would think, given that it's been a couple of days since these tweets, that the people that cover the Ravens every day probably tried to run up the flagpole. Hey, is there something to be known about this? And someone who covers the NFL, Tom Pelissero, somebody like that, maybe would have reached out and tried to get an answer. The fact that we don't have anything like that would maybe lean me towards the idea that it's perhaps not football related or not significant.
or at least nothing that the Ravens know about.
But I get it.
Yeah.
It definitely caused a stir over the weekend. There's no doubt. These tweets caused a lot of people to be like, yo, what?
I think a good way of vetting it is go over to Marlon Humphrey's Twitter, see what he's been up to.
Yes, what's he been up to? Yeah.
Let's see. He was
we remember
drinking
Marlon
coffee
Humphrey.
Saturday morning.
What was the tweet from Marlon that was actually fascinating earlier this offseason? There was a Marlon one that was a banger this offseason. I can't remember what it was.
I don't know. He's got so many. Would you rather take a gorilla punch or a horse kick to the chest?
That one wasn't the one,
that was
but
last
that one
week.
that was interesting. There was another one that he sent that got people talking.
He's been working on his golf game, it looks like, over the past couple weeks.
It's a good palate cleanser. I do appreciate that.
I'm not sure how far back.
Apparently, earlier today, he shared a video of Halle Berry kissing
kissing
Adrian Brody in front of his wife and saying, "I would be furious if Halle Berry did this to me."
Don't do it to him, Halle Berry. Hear that? I would think I'd be pretty mad too, Halle Berry.
Marlon wants us to know he's good with the draw from the fights.
He was drinking coffee, or no, he wasn't drinking coffee. Saturday. And that would have been around. He had a flight delayed.
Right. So he doesn't appear. What you're saying is he doesn't appear to be.
Yeah, it doesn't appear to be anything
concerned about adopting because normally he'd be responding to these types of things.
He'd be like, "You good, bro?" or something. One of those.
Right.
Like, is Marlon Humphrey checking? Let me just make sure I go to replies real quick to make sure I didn't miss any. Yeah, he didn't.
Right.
No, nothing. Nothing right now.
One time.
Just he was going back and forth with Dan Orlovsky though about the gorilla punch horse chest.
I feel like
kick.
there are other things that he should be addressing with Dan Orlovsky.
I would think so.
I feel like there might be things that he should be a little bit more. God, I wish I could find it. There was an actually interesting conversation starter from Marlon's been tweeting a lot.
Yeah, he does
He's
tweet a lot.
Really
so it's tough to. I'm trying to. I can't think of. I don't know what to. It was like a kind of would you rather question, or was it?
It was like a really good conversation starter, and I can't remember what it was.
What date are you on?
I'm so far back. I'm at February 13th. It's 12/22. I got to go pick up a cord. I'm going to the morgue.
Sure.
I don't have time. We got to move forward. But
let's see. Was it before the Super Bowl?
Griffin, you're asking too many questions. Let's just do a tidbit. let's just do that. It's too much. Way, way, way too much. He did tweet out, "No offense, but as a grown man, why are you drinking coffee?" I do remember that one getting some conversation. That definitely happened. God. All right, whatever. Forget it. Tidbit. Tidbit is brought to you today. I really wish I could remember what it was. Maybe it was on Facebook. He's on Facebook, too. Tidbit is brought to you by the print issue of Press Box, which is available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. You can read it all, PressBoxOnline.com. On the cover, Stan and I sat down for a lengthy Q&A with David Rubenstein. Go pick that up today.
All right. Where are we going, Tidbit here? So last night, the conference tournaments did, in fact, start in college basketball, and it looks like Central Arkansas may have this year's DJ Burns.
Oh,
big
guy?
Boy? Yeah, big boy on Central Arkansas. They got a win last night. He and this guy Nehemiah Turner did it all for him. 37 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks in Central Arkansas's win over Stetson last night. So their season stays alive. He's also a freshman. And he becomes the only freshman in the last 20 years with the second freshman, I should say. The second freshman in the last 20 years with 35 points, 10 rebounds, multiple assists, steals, and blocks in any game.
Ooh.
What other freshman had 35, 10, and then multiple each of assists, blocks, and steals in a college basketball game? Freshman in the last 20 years.
The last 20 years.
Yes.
Durant.
Not Durant.
20 years. Zion.
Not Zion.
AD.
Not AD. But yeah, he was a first overall, yeah.
He was a first overall pick.
Yeah, he had to be.
Was he or not?
I mean, yeah, he had to be. There's no
all right. So in the last 20 years. Yeah. First overall pick in the last 20 years. And give me the numbers one more time, just
35 points,
right?
10 rebounds,
right?
And I clicked away from it. And then multiple assists, like 2+ assists, 2+ blocks,
assists,
2+ steals.
I guess 10 isn't is it Anthony Edwards?
Not Anthony Edwards.
Is it?
He was the.
Because like some of these guys, it's a stretch to think they could have gotten 10 rebounds. I don't think Kyrie got 10 rebounds.
Not Kyrie. 2016 draft.
2016 draft. Was that Markelle Fultz?
Not Markelle Fultz. Was he the year after or the year before?
Oh, was that Ben Simmons?
Ben Simmons was.
Okay, I guess I could see.
Was
Ben
the one here?
I was thinking it had to be a
10.
forward or a because of the
Right.
rebounds, but yeah, Ben Simmons was a
Yeah, so Ben Simmons, that is the company that Nehemiah Turner joins.
Not
in.
really sure what that does for us. I'm not sure
Well,
how that helps
it was
on
an
either
impressive
end.
performance.
There's that.
Impressive
There is that.
performance from the big guy.
All right.
There for Central Arkansas. This is an interesting one because tonight Houston and Kansas play. With Kansas on the road, they are at the moment 9.5-point underdogs against Houston. The Kansas Jayhawks.
It's the biggest underdogs they've been since.
Go ahead.
Not a chance in hell.
It was March 19th, 2000.
Wow.
They were 10.5-point underdogs against Duke in the NCAA in the round of 32 in the NCAA tournament.
I was gonna say in 2000, because a year later they were definitely in the Final Four. I don't remember them being.
Kansas was.
I know that because obviously Maryland. Oh no, that was the 2002 Final Four.
So
it was
2
years later.
removed.
Wait, so what? This was in the 2000 NCAA tournament?
Yeah, the 2000.
Yeah, so I know they were in the Final Four 2 years later.
They matched up with Duke in the second round and were not favored to win that one.
Well, how about it?
Some draft, some combine.
Bill Self had to put out like a statement over the weekend.
Really?
About please don't be mad at the players. Like, Jesus
they lose again. I
Christ.
guess they must have.
I
forget who they play. I mean,
yeah.
Kansas is like they're like a Butler. I mean, I guess they're probably still in. They have to be still in, I guess. But they're like sinking lower and lower. They're like they're gonna be like the last rated Big 12 team to get in.
Kansas. Sorry.
Landon Jackson and Shamar Storts from
Yes. Shamar Stewart's Texas A&M.
Yes, Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M. Landon Jackson from Arkansas. They both joined. They both became the third and
They
fourth.
lost to Texas Tech on Saturday.
Okay,
It's a good team,
yeah,
obviously.
It's a good team.
Like, that's a good team.
Big 12's tough conference. D lineman to weigh 260 pounds. They became the third and fourth defensive lineman since 2003 to weigh 260 pounds and jump 40 inches in the vertical at the combine. Only two other D linemen.
Since when?
Since 2003.
Aaron Donald.
Not Aaron Donald.
Really?
Mm-mm.
It's like the most athletic freak I've ever seen.
Two other athletic freaks.
Chris Jones?
Is it like Aaron Donald didn't participate in the combine?
Not
Not Chris
possible.
Jones. Not Chris Jones. Because I am with you. I don't know how Aaron Donald.
Yeah, right? Like, he's such a freak that you can't. Now, are these, like, guys that it's a trick that they're defensive linemen because you really think of them as.
Yeah, okay. I guess one of them, yeah. One of them.
No,
Yeah.
that makes it almost
The other one, I think,
impossible.
is
Is it a Watt or a Bosa?
not a Watt or a Bosa.
Calais?
Not Calais.
He wasn't really an athletic freak like that. Did they consider Jadeveon
Apparently, Aaron Donald's vertical is 32 inches.
That's crazy to me.
That doesn't seem real, unless is
Right?
this just because he it wasn't as big when he was coming out, or he wasn't
I
as.
don't know. I don't have the answer to that.
Still in the 80th percentile. Good. Not Jadeveon.
DeForest Buckner.
Not DeForest Buckner. Another A&M grad.
Oh, do they count Myles Garrett as
Myles
a
Garrett,
That's
yeah,
a
And then a 2006 NC State grad. When I say grad, I don't know.
yeah, an alum.
Yeah.
2006 is Mario Williams.
Yep, Mario Williams, Myles Garrett, Shamar Stewart, Landon Jackson.
And again, both of them are really more like edge rush
I guess,
types than
yeah.
they are true defensive line. But in fairness, I don't know exactly what Shamar Stewart is either. I wish we could just call it defensive tackle or edge. Like I wish, like the fact that we still try to do this for, like a D
Call
end.
it D lineman because they're one of the four. Yeah, I don't know.
Like it's such a difficult. I get it. I understand, and like they have different body types and the whole deal.
What do we call Michael Pierce since he's a he can drop into coverage.
He is a coverage defensive tackle. That's a good point.
He's a linebacker basically.
You're right.
I mean,
can that be it? It's 12:30.
I guess. All right, let me do the Oscars one then real quick. So can you name the number one, the actor with the most nominations for Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor, actress with most nominations for.
I'll just assume Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep has 21 nominations for Best Actress. And second closest actress would be Katharine Hepburn with 12. So Meryl Streep a wide lead at the Oscars there.
I'm between a couple. I think we had this question at trivia once, right? And I think that we got it wrong, despite having a movie guy. And I think the answer was Jack Nicholson. Is the answer Jack Nicholson?
That's your final answer?
Yes.
The answer is Jack
Okay.
Nicholson. 12
We did not
nominations.
guess Jack Nicholson. And I want to say the one that we guessed was, we actually found out was not, I think we guessed Tom Hanks, just because, like, he won, but, like.
He is not in the top 6 nominations for Tom Hanks.
Yeah, it was not, we weren't particularly
But
close.
good company here. You know, Leo, Michael Caine, Anthony Hopkins, Daniel Day-Lewis, all 6 nominations.
It's not bad. That's not a bad group.
No Jack Nicholson, though. 12
Yeah, double
for
that.
Jack Nicholson.
Double that.
Yes. Yeah. All right.
All right, very good. Let's get Tubular.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
All right, here's what's coming up this evening, totally tubular-wise, as we talked about with Patrick. Morgan State is at home playing Coppin State. Sorry, no, not playing. That's Thursday. Morgan State at home tonight against Delaware State at 7:30 on ESPN+. Coppin is at home tonight against UMES, 8 o'clock on ESPN+. Orioles Red Sox, 1 o'clock. Charlie Morton first up. Felix Bautista will be third on the mound today. It is both on MASN and on ESPN. Big Ten Hoops tonight, Fox Sports 1, UCLA Northwestern at 9. Some video game golf today on ESPN2 at, is that right? It says 3, maybe it's 5 and 7. Did I write that down wrong? Hang on a second.
Or is it because there's basketball tonight?
But why would there be? There wouldn't be a 5 o'clock game, would there? Yeah, it's at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock for video game golf today on ESPN2. I don't know. Monumental, Senators Capitals, 6:30, NHL Network. Oh, Ovechkin got another goal over the weekend, right?
Nice.
So he's,
Sure.
Is it 11 or is it 10?
Yeah, it's going to be 11.
I'm not a
right?
Capitals fan. Senator, and there was too much this weekend.
It's coming up close.
Senators Capitals, 6:30 on Monumental. NHL Network, Islanders Rangers, 7 o'clock. Monumental 2, Wizards Heat at 7:30. NBA TV, Rockets Thunder at 8. TNT for Unrivaled tonight at 7:30. MLB Network has World Baseball Classic qualifier this afternoon. Brazil and Germany at 1 o'clock. And then Brewers Reds at 8. Netflix for WWE Raw tonight at 8 as well.
A lot of fallout on Raw.
Yeah, big moment over the weekend. It finally happened.
I wasn't sure. Did you watch it? I guess.
Nobody wants to talk about it, but it kind of... This is going to be the it's so if you don't know, John Cena turned heel.
What?
Over the weekend. John Cena had never gone heel in his career because he was the guy that, like, kids loved. So they always wanted to make sure he was a face and that even if people were booing him, kids were buying his shirts and were into it. This is his final year in the WWE, allegedly. So they've decided apparently they're going to do this heel thing because Cody's now the guy that kids buy the shirts for, and so they don't need John Cena. But it actually kind of sucks. The big story around John Cena is he needs to win one more title in order to break Ric Flair's record. Well, they're not going to have him do that as a heel. Like, what they're not going to do is have this big record-breaking moment come as a heel. So it means that we kind of know who's going to win at WrestleMania. Like, that's what makes it kind of suck. I get it. Like, wrestling fans are, like, into it because, like, oh, they finally did it. I'm shocked. But it's actually the exact wrong time to do it because you don't.
So your theory is that he's not going to win WrestleMania?
He's absolutely. There's no way that you waste this moment.
So doing it
as a heel.
What are there's SummerSlam. There's
yeah, that's probably the way that it works. Is he does this for a little while and then he loses, so then maybe The Rock picks somebody else to be his representative, and that person beats Cody, and then John Cena faces that person at SummerSlam, and that's how he snaps out of it. He realizes I was never supposed to be that guy, and then that's how they do the moment. That's the most likely scenario.
So who's going to beat Cody Rhodes then? Seth freaking Rollins?
I'm trying to think of who else would even make sense to be a
Seth
corporate.
Rollins.
You think that's going to be the big choice?
I think it's Mr. Freaking Rollins.
There you go. Mr. Freaking.
Yes.
That's my father was Mr. Freaking Rollins.
You didn't mention the A-Sun quarterfinals tonight.
Ah, right, because they're not on television. They're on ESPN+.
People can watch. It's watchable.
That's true. If I did that for every college basketball game,
you should.
We would be
Maybe
here for 70 hours.
Yeah.
You're really into the Atlantic Sun.
Well, because
Why
it's the first tournament. It's the first
are they
tournament
the one where like it goes one round by one? What's the league where it's like a gauntlet?
The WCC.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. I think another conference.
I think another conference is doing it
up
this year
as
because
well.
somebody was sharing the bracket this weekend where it's like a gauntlet style. You beat somebody, then you got to play somebody. It just keeps going.
But yeah, another league did pick up that. But the WCC had done it for a while, where it was like always Gonzaga and St. Mary's like didn't have to play until essentially the semifinals. And yeah, another league picked it up. I don't know which one it was, but it was the Sun Belt maybe. I don't think it was the. Oh yeah, I think it is the Sun Belt. I think the Sun Belt because South Alabama and JMU have both like advanced to the semifinals in the Sun Belt. So I think the Sun Belt also picked up that conference.
Okay, so it's 2 per round.
Yeah.
So it's like the 11 through 14 seeds play tonight, then the 9 and the 10. So there's by day 2 more seeds join the party each day. So tomorrow the 9 and 10, or sorry, not tonight. Starts
the
tomorrow.
Sun Belt,
night. Sun Belt starts tomorrow night. The bottom 4 seeds play.
Yep.
The 2 winners play the next 2 seeds, the 9 and the 10 on Wednesday.
Correct.
And the 2 winners play the next 2 seeds, the 8 and the 7 on Thursday, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So if like the Cajuns want to make a run here, they got to win
1, 2,
6
3,
days
4,
and
5,
6 days.
6, 7.
Seven.
They have to win 7 games in 7 days.
Yeah, right. It goes Tuesday to Monday. Jeez.
Yeah.
They can do it.
Now, it's a hell of a way to accomplish both things. It both means anybody can still win, but the regular season does mean more than that.
Right.
I
think like there's a theory is that like if you're going to get your best team going to the tournament.
Correct.
And, if
you're more
JMU's
likely
your
to
best
get your
team,
best team to go to the tournament.
And JMU's your best team,
and
they
I would
have a good chance
argue
of knocking off
for all
whoever.
like this would never make sense for a power conference. Like they could never it would take up too much time, the whole thing. But for one conference leagues, it is absolutely a fairer way to go about determining a champion, and 100% makes every game during the course of the season matter more significantly. Like the reward is so much more significant than just.
Nice if Towson had if the CAA
right
had a model like this.
Like for years.
It would also mean that both the 2 Towson games would be on CBS Sports Network.
Yeah, it'd be pleasant too. That's a good point. Avoid the quarterfinals.
And would
Flow
also,
sports.
And then as Patrick said, Elon and Drexel probably are the 2 worst.
Tough. That's
outside
tough,
of Charleston
man.
in the first round, like that'd be.
That's tough.
That's the worst.
Non-sports.
I didn't even tell you. The Bachelor on tonight. Ben Stiller's going to be on Kimmel along with Regina Hall.
Promoting The Bachelor.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
There we go.
Very
Brian, here's a good one. Brian Tyree Henry and Tony Hawk.
No, that's actually much different. Oh, no. This is. I don't know if you've heard about this yet. They're promoting the TGL golf.
Really, Tony Hawk and Brian Tyree Henry.
They're just big fans.
They're going to be on. They're going to be on Colbert tonight.
Yeah.
They actually. They both actually have interesting things. The Dope Thief is a show on Apple TV Plus that Brian Tyree Henry will be in. From Ridley Scott, it looks actually pretty good. They fake being DEA agents and like rob drug dealers, and then.
Well, in this country, that's not really the problem. Is if you're a DEI agent, then they really come after you. Then
there you go.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks. And then they like rob the wrong people. It looks pretty good. They're like they're in big trouble. So that looks good. Apparently they're going to do it sounds like the rumor is that Tony Hawk's going to announce they're remaking Pro Skater 3 and 4.
How about
the
that?
Video game?
I definitely played that game a good bit growing up.
Michael Strahan will be on Fallon.
It's just him.
Just him.
When it's just one person.
I think apparently he wants to get into acting. He said over the weekend that he wants to be the next James Bond.
Sure. Good luck, bud.
Good luck.
I mean, he's fine at what he does.
John Turturro and Kate Hudson on Seth Meyers.
Yes, they're promoting Michael Strahan's acting career.
Really?
They're actually
Kate
going
Hudson,
on together tonight.
Impressed with him.
To talk to who they're on with who?
Seth Meyers.
They're going to try to convince Seth Meyers that Michael Strahan can be an actor.
Okay,
that's
right.
Yep. That's what they're doing.
Good luck to them then. And then of course, going to be a big hit in this city tonight. HBO at 9:00. Celtic City. Series premiere on HBO.
Sure. I've seen this. It's a Bill Simmons thing.
It's Bill Simmons thing. Also EP'd by the people that made OJ Made in America.
I'm sure
and The Last Dance.
It's made just fine. Nope. It said Bill Simmons. I said, "Yep, I'm good. I'm all right."
Well, what if it wasn't Celtics related, but Bill Simmons still produced like something?
I think he was involved with the Vince McMahon one that wasn't that great. I think he was involved with the Andre the Giant. That one was.
So you're saying Bill Simmons lost no fastball?
Which 30 for 30s did Bill Simmons actually? Because I know the 30 for 30 concept was his idea, but which of the 30 for 30s was he actually involved with? Because I think the real question for me is he any good at this or not? Or is he really just the idea man? Because the idea for 30 for 30, tremendous, obviously. But I don't know if any of the 30 for 30s that he was involved with actually were good or not. Trying to think of what else long form he's done. Like his writing is exhausting. Like, God, it just became so exhausting, man. Like, I get it. You're the every fan, whatever. Like, you were saying things in 40,000 words that could have been said in 5. Did you figure out?
Yeah, it doesn't look like he
was. He just
like,
the idea
yeah, it looks
man
like
for the
seems
concept?
like he was mostly just the idea man.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was at least a couple where he had
would think,
a hand in there, but yeah, it sounds like it was more like he came up with the idea for this, and wasn't necessarily all that much hands on in the making of the individual documentaries.
Okay, so there's that. All right, we good?
Maybe helping to find directors, I guess, for them, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That was probably exactly what he should have been doing.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank
that's
you.
everything.
Oh,
Hot Wheels.
God.
Hot Wheels Let's Race Season 3.
Christ.
On Netflix.
Thanks today to
it's a good one.
Zack Britton. Thanks to Patrick Stevens. Thanks to Dont'e Thornton. Fun to meet him after a huge weekend. And to Jeremy Conn. We'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the
Can You Take Me Higher?
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Carl Ravitch is joining us tomorrow.
Carl Ravitch will join us tomorrow. Talk Orioles.
Stuff and things.
Yeah,
well, Carl Ravitch is a good one, so it's a good place to start. Good place to start. Stuff and things after that. Thanks, everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel, Cruise Maryland, Crown Trophy, Easy Pass, Royal Farms, CIAA Tournament, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Costas Inn, MSAA, Maryland Sports, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Monday night. Go Morgan, go Coppin, Duke sucks.